The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies and also the generous donations of you, the listener. Huge thank you goes to Alex McIntosh, Marcus Wheeler, John, Tobias Whiting, Glenn Oberhauser, and David Jakowsin. Guys, thank you very much for your generous support. It really is greatly appreciated. Have you heard the one where a Welshman, a Yorkshireman and a Leicesterite gang up on a Brummie? No? Well, you're about to. It's the Meeples and Miniatures podcast.
Oh, sorry, wrong song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, dear Hobbsy. Happy birthday to... Keep up, lad, keep up to you.
I'm touched.
Yes, so we.
Humbled, some would say. Lost for words.
Will you have had a good birthday, Hobbsy?
Oh, it'll be great. Because my phone will be turned off and in a hotel safe somewhere, and I'll be at a bar.
But I thought you told me the other week.
I don't drink, but it's holidays and it's all inclusive, so it's free.
Oh, it's one of those, is it? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, so by the time you're listening to this, Mr. Hobbs will have had a birthday. And a significant one. And therefore, when you're listening to this, he won't be in the country.
I may not even be sober.
Oh, so I'll be very disappointed if you were. Or vertical.
But he will be one of those ages that starts with the big and ends with O.
Yeah. I don't want to be 50. Old men are 50.
I resemble that remark.
40 was okay. You know. Anyway.
As I may have said on the Lardies list a while back, I will, however, grow up what I think when I would grow up and get a life when somebody proves it's superior to what I have now.
Yeah.
Yes. Indeed. Well, put it this way, Mike. You can go before me again and tell me what it's like. Yeah, report back from the other side. Yeah.
I hate both of you.
Freaking youngsters coming around you.
I don't know.
Get off my lawn.
Hello and welcome to episode 169 of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. I'm Neil Shuck, and once again I am joined from, back, having managed to escape from the wilds of Lard Island. We have the Welsh wizard himself, Mr. Michael Hobbs.
Hello.
Hello, mate. How you doing? You all right?
Not too bad.
It's been ages since we saw each other.
No, it's been about 20 hours.
Yeah. This is very true. And the chuckle you heard in the background was Mr. Mike Whitaker. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Long time no see.
Indeed, it was about 1 o'clock this morning, wasn't it?
Yes, we had a Meeples day trip.
We did. Yes, I think the Twitterverse was imploding for a couple of hours.
My mailbox certainly was with Twitter notifications.
Turn them off, mate. Turn them off a lot.
Yeah. Yes, I did like the. I forget who exactly tweeted it, but somewhere out at some point turned around and said, "So is anybody not at Lord Island tonight?"
Yes, Mr. Luff.
Mr. Luff.
Sorry, Dave.
But yes, we've had that rare occurrence where we've actually been not only in the same locality, but actually playing games together, which almost never happens.
So, who won the game? Mike? What's your recollection of the game you played yesterday?
Well, I have a photo showing Neil's side's force of morale on 0.
Oh.
It wasn't my side. It wasn't my side.
Whose cavalry was it?
It was the Americans.
And which side? Who was the one complaining because their activation chip wasn't turning up?
Well, hang on. Yes, I was on the American side, and I was the American cavalry commander.
So to backpedal just a bit and explain what we're talking about.
Indeed. Let's put this back into context. Now you remember a couple of shows ago we happened to have that short little chat with Mr. Clark.
I think he's still talking.
Well, he certainly was last night.
Yes, and Mr. Hobbs, can you explain what happened after that?
Certainly. Whilst I put down my cup of drink and unmute my mute button. Yeah, yesterday we did a bit of a play test for the War of 1812 stuff. We all went to Lard Island to their
What is this supplement what you are writing?
This supplement what I is writing, which I've really got to write now because everyone knows about it.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, can't get away with this one anymore. Yes, so bit of a playtest. We went to the Lard Island Research and Development Facility in a secret location in St Albans, and it was loads of us there. So obviously there was Rich, Nick Skinner, and Sid, aka Adam, came along, and another 3 or 4.
Doogie and Biff, Elton, and come on, help me out here.
I'm terrible with names. I'm I'm sorry.
No. The others weren't on my side, so
yeah, it was mate, and mate.
Indeed.
And let's not forget mate.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. I'm crap at names. Oh, we all are. So yeah, it was about 10 of us there.
Something like that.
Yeah. So big table, lots of figures.
All your figures.
All my figures.
All your figures.
Very, very pretty.
They're very, very, very pretty, and we tried our best to try not to break them too much, despite throwing them on the floor and dropping trees on them and
getting them hooked up in trees.
Sorry, Mike.
That's all right. They're figures. They're meant to be abused, and yeah, it was good fun. So you two played.
You had a development game in the afternoon, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you do?
Oh, I managed to scrape a win. I destroyed him.
Read Mike's blog for more. Cool. Yes, blogging. You're blogging, aren't you? Read Mike's blog for more details. Yes, it was. Suffice it to say, I think from the comments he was making, he was smart. Mr. Clark was smarting a bit after that one.
He was laughing an awful lot. It got to the stage where it was just hysterical laughter of what can go wrong now. Oh, look, I just rolled that. Yes, it was one of those games. But good day. So we've thrashed out a lot of stuff, and it seemed to be working. Mostly testament to Richie's rules than anything I've done. So, but it's great, really good day, and we had a curry afterwards.
Indeed, we had a good night gaming, and then we had a very nice curry.
Yeah,
excellent curry.
Indeed.
And so I'm now looking forward to Mr. Whitaker doing his Duck Spit Compendium playtest day at the Lard Island Research and Development area.
I'm sure there will be one.
Yes.
Although there will be a couple of playtests at Operation Market Garden.
And
we did have our first one this Monday down at the club.
Good stuff. So it's all come together. So you're doing Duck Spit. I'm doing more of 1812.
Neil's doing Vietnam.
What?
Have we mentioned this?
What? What? Just drop me in it, why don't you?
I am so looking forward to the Vietnam version of Chain of Command. I've dusted off my 15mm Yanks and everything, mate. It's all ready to go.
Oh, right, okay. In that case, then I better stop painting World War II and start painting Vietnam stuff. Although, yeah, people don't believe me, but I do actually have some painted Vietnam stuff. I just haven't got any scenery, or not a lot of scenery. Oh, crikey! Right, yes. I'm not quite sure exactly how it happened. But that was it. Nick Skinner was doing some painting of some of his old Chiltern miniature Vietnam stuff,
which look lovely.
Yeah, Chiltern miniatures are an interesting range because they were billed as being 28mm, but to say they're heroic 32 is and then some. I mean, they're kind of almost like 35mm, and they are very chunky. So. They're almost not compatible with anything else.
I suppose you could use a 1/35 Tamiya kit with them, couldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, they were really nice. They were really nice miniatures. Very, very, very characterful. But unfortunately, the range was never huge. And I don't know if you can get hold of them. I don't think anybody does them anymore. But they did do a very nice small range of Vietnam stuff. But there's several other companies that do lots of stuff, and as it was a case of having seen Nick's very nicely painted Vietnam stuff, we just swapped Twitter comments, and then all of a sudden, before I know it, it was suggested that perhaps I might like to consider looking at doing a Vietnam version of Chain of Command. To which I think I may have said yes.
So has this been agreed by the Lardmaster himself?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's kind of at the throwing ideas around stage, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I know certainly Nick's very keen with it, and I think it's a question of turning around and saying, okay, let's throw some ideas around and see where we go with it.
So it could be a third trip to the Lard Island Research and Development Laboratory.
Indeed. Indeed.
And curry night afterwards.
Yes, more curry.
Oh,
yes.
Tragedy.
Yes, more curry.
Yeah.
Indeed. I think as far as that is concerned at this moment, it's a kind of it's a bit of a watch this space, but yeah, it could happen. It could certainly happen. So, well, we'll see where we go from here. But yeah, so we've been, I mean, obviously this kind of starts going into the what we've been up to part of the show and what have you. So, I suppose we should think about taking a break and getting on with that. But
I should point out that
yes,
we failed in our usual with our usual intro, in which you introduce us both, particularly since we have a good new name for Hobbsy.
No, you haven't.
He just protests because he's not from the right county.
It's factually incorrect.
Factually incorrect.
Whenever has that stopped us?
Sorry, I do apologise. Yes. More specifically than the Welsh wizard. Apparently he's now the druid from Clwyd. Except he isn't.
Do we care? I suggested the bard from Card.
Yes. Which I prefer. The Cardiff Bardiff, yeah.
Oh, dearie me.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I got one this week, which, considering the poor man's Lindsay Buckingham last week, I think is entirely fair.
That's fair enough. Yes. Well, okay. Well, just before we take a break, let's just.
Because we are a little punchy.
Let's just.
It was a late night.
It was a late. It was an early morning, mate. It was 20. It was 20 past 2 by the time I got home. I mean, oh dearie me. Anyway, right. So, just to let people know what is in store on this show, other than the three of us, in our usual form. Okay, so we have our usual segments of what we've been up to, and also hobby news. But the main part of the show, we will be talking to Robey Jenkins, who has been on the show before. Check out episode 99.
99?
Yeah, I said 99, didn't I?
You started out saying 199.
Well, we haven't got to 199. That would be quite impressive.
I say, Neil's built the time machine.
Anyway, Yes, check out episode 99. So Robey has been on the show before, quite a while ago. But yeah, Robey is the author of Horizon Wars, which is the new sci-fi 6mm combat game, battle game, which is being released by Osprey Publishing at Salute, which hopefully you're listening to this show whilst you're on the way to it.
Where you will find Neil.
Well, yes, you'll find me, and only me.
Yes,
apparently. Yes, so happy birthday to Mr. Hobbs. But that does mean that, hey, he won't be at Salute.
And I'm not going to be at Salute because I'm off to the Royal Armies the following weekend, and I'd like to not get divorced, thank you.
Right, which means that the people at Salute representing will be myself and Mr. Luff. Yes, so I'll be wandering around shoving microphones up people's noses, and Mr. Luff will be my minder for the day.
Say something else there for a minute. Sorry.
So I think at that point yes, we have Robey Jenkins on the show. And we've got quite an in-depth interview with him, actually discussing all manner of things about Horizon Wars. So that's what we've got in store for you on this show. Hope you enjoy it. So what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be telling you even more about what we've been up to in the last couple of weeks.
I must get through to Sergeant Watson's position. Jenkins, cover me.
Sir.
Whoa. Sergeant Watson, bring your men in. Withdraw.
It's all right, sir. We're enjoying ourselves.
What?
Yes, sir. It's these here chain of command rules, sir. We're having great fun.
Chain of command?
That's right, sir. It's a challenging but fun blend of command and control. It gives me the freedom I want to fight the way I want to. Never had so much fun, sir.
And we've cooked you some sausages.
Can't be helped, sir. Me and the lads are staying put.
Chain of Command World War II platoon level rules from two fat laddies. They really put you in control. And they're even better than sausages.
What have we been playing? What have we been buying? We might even have painted something. The Meeples and Miniatures crew reveal all. It's that time of the show when we find out what we've been doing in the hobby. And as if by magic, a presenter has appeared. Hello, Mr. Luff.
Hello everyone.
Hello, mate. Nice of you to join us.
Yeah, sorry, fresh from one-to-one painting. I'm here now.
So what were you dry brushing today then, mate?
What was I dry brushing today? Skirting board.
Oh, that sounds so exciting.
Oh, joy.
It is. Yeah.
Was it white?
Funnily enough, yeah.
Oh. I thought I was the only one who ever did white skirting boards, but apparently it's very popular.
Oh, yeah, that and Magnolia Walls.
I did grey skirting board the other week at YMCA. We were doing a little charity job at college for YMCA, and they have grey skirting boards.
So it's cleaning them, I suppose.
Hides the muck.
Hides the scuff marks from the shoes. And now, after this piece of 28mm interior painting advice for buildings, we move on.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you know, considering what's coming up in the hobby news, you know, painting white skirting board is good practice for cross belts. More of which later. Right, okay. So what have we been up to?
It's your turn, Neil.
It's my turn. All right, so is it my turn and then Dave gets his right to reply to everything I've said wrong?
Yes.
Don't be fair.
Well, okay, fair enough. Right. Okay, so what have we been up to? Right, okay, so, well, as you've already heard in the intro, 3 of us got together for a night of gaming and a curry. Somebody cried off. Can't think
I'm
why.
at college. At college.
What, did you have, like, college the following day or something?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, mate. It was only 20 past 2 when we got into Leicester. I mean, it's not as if it's late.
Yeah, I'd have loved that.
Yeah, you college people, it wasn't. Isn't the whole thing of college students is that they stay up 24 hours and all that sort of thing, or is that just no?
I'd get up at 11 in the morning.
Like most college students.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe the fact that I got home at 20 past 2 is probably a good reason for you not to.
Possibly.
Come and join us for a wonderful night of gaming and a curry.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Don't rub it in. Get on with it.
Well, as I say, so yes, so we had a good night of gaming, but obviously, yeah, we kind of talked a little bit about that already. So I'll kind of gloss over it slightly, only just to say that Mr. Hobbs, your figures are really, really nice. Yeah, I mean, I know you didn't paint all of them. I know Gareth's painted some, and Gareth, yes, your painting is really nice as well. Even if it is 28mm as opposed to 6. More of which later. Great stuff. And obviously now we played with them all, so they've had their inaugural loss. So the Americans are now going to sweep everything before them. So there we go.
Well, it depends who's playing them.
Yes, till the words run out of my mouth, Mr. Hobbs.
What are you trying to say, guys? What are you trying to say? Anyway,
Nothing.
well, I mean, other than playing shot practice 2, we've had a couple of games in our 6th Airborne campaign that myself and Mr. Luff have been playing. We and after action reports are available on the blog, along with copious photos. And I decided to call it the Winged Horse because that quite seemed appropriate. So you can read up on what we've been doing on the blog. Yeah, we had a couple of games. So I'd lost Pegasus Bridge. And what did we do next? We then did... What did we go 2 weeks ago, Dave?
I don't know. I've been in bed since then.
It was that Chateau game where
Yes. It was the assault on. It was the shelter.
Good job, Mike's paying attention, isn't it?
It was the assault on Varaville Chateau. Varaville Chateau. So that was C Company of the Canadian of 1st Canadian Airborne. Meanwhile, B Company were wandering off to attempt to destroy the Rob Home Bridge, and so that's what we played last week. Now, fair to say. Probably,
you lost?
Well, I'm going to say probably the results were as expected. However, having said that, I think in the scenario we played last week, I probably did more damage to Dave than I've ever done previously.
But did you win?
But did I win? No, but I got him down to 5. I got him down to 5 force. I mean, he had 10 force morale points, and I got him down to 5. When my morale finally collapsed. It was, having said that, it was also elites versus greens, which,
you did outnumber me.
Yeah, by a squad and a bit.
I'm intrigued. How many points worth of support did you get?
Oh no, we're not playing that. We're playing with fixed forces from scenarios. So it's kind of basically taking, in what we're playing at the moment, it's taking a scenario and then playing with what we've got with Chain of Command. So Dave you had 2 full squads and a squad of engineers, wasn't it?
Yeah, squad of engineers. All armed with the squad of engineers were all armed with Stens, and then it was a pretty standard cock squad for the other 2 squads.
Yeah, the engineers also had a Bren gun, didn't they?
Ah, yeah, they did have a Bren gun, yeah.
Yeah. And then I had 4 green squads, no MG42s. Sorry, I had a single MG42.
And you had an Opel Blitz.
I had I had 2 trucks. Oh, yes. Yeah. Actually, I did discover afterwards. I did myself out of an MG42 because I should have been playing with a hero figure, a separate hero figure who happens to be carting around an MG42. So I lost an MG42. Don't think that would have mattered that much in the grand scheme of things. But
given the amount of damage it does, it ought to have done.
Actually, the one thing I've actually discovered is that, well, I mean, other than the fact that as far as myself is concerned, it doesn't seem to matter how many dice I throw at Dave, because most of it tends to miss anyway. So I mean, there is a case of yes, okay, I'm rolling lots of dice. I don't tend to hit an awful lot. Remember, Dave's elites, so you have to roll 60s to hit him in the first place anyway. But
that's where using your leader to add yourself some fire dice probably doesn't hurt.
What? Another 2 dice.
Proves the odds.
Yeah, just slightly. But yeah, it was. I mean, I proved one thing is that close assault is a real lottery, and basically at that point, it really doesn't matter if you're paratroopers.
No, it's a great leveler, isn't it? Close assault.
Not half.
Yeah, so get in there.
Fair to say, after a particular combat result, I mean, he'll probably correct me here, but the impression was someone wasn't overly impressed.
No, well, it just reminded me how bad close assault is, and like I thought, like it's not very good to do it with paras from the very first COC game that we played.
Yeah, but
the key thing about close assault in Chain of Combat is don't do it unless your opponent is pinned. It's not worth it unless you outnumber them massively.
Well, to be fair, the first, I mean, he did outnumber it. Well, I mean, the first time we did it, we got it completely wrong.
Well, the scenario made me do it, didn't it? Because I needed to move on quick and try and get onto the bridge quickly. I didn't want to get bogged down on a firefight trying to take the one side of the bridge, did I? Because if I got bogged down, the alarm would have been raised, and I really wanted to took at least one side of the bridge before your forces were
the trick
alarmed.
there is to use your leaders, because they allow your fire teams to concentrate fire on a specific fire team of the opponents, and then you can take out one team completely by shocking it, and then you've suddenly got much better odds in close combat.
Yeah, well, everything was. I mean, everything was all split up anyway.
Those British national characteristics are really useful.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a really weird scenario because basically, defending one side of the bridge, there were effectively 3 different tyre teams. There was an MG42 team in a gun pit. There were 2 sentries, and then the rest of the squad. There were 2 sentries on the other side of the bridge, and then the rest of the squad, which happened to be my junior leader, the other guy with the MP40, and another bloke, were sat in a house, and so. Essentially, Dave assaulted the sentries, killed them. What should have happened is that the combat should never have taken place. Actually, at this point, I have to point out, Mr. Whitaker, you need to update your FAQ.
Oh, you mean my quick reference sheet?
Yes, that as well. Yes, you need to update your quick reference sheet because we were using your quick reference sheet for which on the whole is absolutely brilliant, but it didn't. But obviously, we were just using that and, of course, completely missed the fact that, this whole thing about if you outnumber your opponent's dice by 4 to 1 or more, then they automatically reacted before the combat takes place.
I can't add that to the next version.
I can't believe you're blaming Mike for your dodgy tactics.
Yeah, I think it's a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, who else you going to blame, Neil? Sometime, Neil, you need to take some responsibility onto your own shoulders.
Sorry, I wasn't blaming Mike for that. I was just blaming him for the fact that we were using his marvellous quick reference sheet, and unfortunately we missed a piece of the rules.
Just go for it. Blame him anyway, Neil.
But then, of course, so one team assaulted the sentries, and then Dave went, right, okay, the other squad is going to assault the MG42. position,
Oh.
which is fine, except for the fact that 3 dice. He's 7 or 8 inches away.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you rolled a 5 on 3 dice. Yeah. so they just failed to get in. The other squad were left on their own and thought, okay, and then he played an interrupt and assaulted my MG42 position anyway before the MG42 got to fire and completely wiped it out. But obviously, assaulting an MG42 position is they throw a lot of dice.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
just for the record, that night I did feel extra aggressive and extra heroic. So
I must admit, I was in shock. This is totally unlike Mr. Luff. But then he then happened to be in a position where, well, I mean, I did quite a bit of damage. I think I killed about 3 or 4 of his blokes. And then he happened to have his back to the guardhouse, and so I close assaulted him with the remaining 3 guys who happened to have 2 with SMGs. And at that point, you discover that it doesn't matter if they're green troops. If you hit the squad in the back, a close assault, it's really nasty.
It's half the dice, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, it ended up in the case of it didn't matter the fact that it was greens versus elites. We were actually rolling the same number of dice, so it just boiled down to a complete lottery. Which for a change, I actually won. But it was all downhill from there. But I think the thing that stuck in, I think, both of our minds was the fact we ended up in a firefight, basically across the bridge. I had 2 squads in buildings. Dave had a squad around the bridge, and I think we just sat and rolled dice for 2 hours, didn't we? It felt like it.
Was it 2 hours? I don't think it was 2 hours, was it?
Well, it might have been 90 minutes. It was certainly longer than an hour.
Yeah, it was longer than an hour. Yeah.
But basically, it was just a case of Dave was just trying to break me, and I was just trying to get lucky. Well, hey, but not the best game of cock we've ever played.
I don't know. It was all right. I thought it was fine. It was okay, my end.
As I say, the interesting thing after those two scenarios is that I'm kind of learning that the scenarios that were written for that particular supplement, from an historical point of view, you have to take with a certain, what's the phrase, large pinch
of salt.
Yes, a large pinch of salt. It was like, reading up on the scenario and kind of going, oh, okay, so this is meant to be on the edge of this village. Okay, but that's where the bridge is. I just went on Google Earth and went, okay, so what are the buildings like around here? Oh, hang on, the bridge is in the middle of nowhere. And yet, according to the scenario, it's on the edge of the village. Yeah. Certain liberties have been taken with the scenarios, with the particular scenario set that we were playing, to kind of make it a more interesting game, quote unquote. 2 quite decent games. I'm looking forward to the next one. I am looking forward to the next one, which Dave's cried off on. Haven't you? You rang me up and said, I can't make it. You cried off on me.
Busy man.
Oh.
Busy man. What can I say?
Just because you're scared of me getting the Panther tank out on the table.
I spit at your tank.
I remember last time you used a Panther tank. It came a bolt action with Rich, wasn't it?
You just had to go there, didn't you?
Well, asking about the time you used a Tiger.
Opening old wounds. What a Tiger and a Tiger and a Panther 4? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, pop. Zzz.
Anyway, so
what else have you been up to?
We've been playing COG. What have I been buying? Well, I haven't bought anything until. Correction. The Kickstarter for Conan completed. So yeah, bought that. The board game expansion thing or at least paid for that. Had to pay for that. Other than that, the only thing I bought actually has been Shot Practice 2, which came out on pre-order today, and we'll be talking about it in the hobby news. But bought that today. That's the only thing I've been buying. What else I've been doing? Not an awful lot of painting. I kind of got distracted from my Panzer IVs, which are still lying where they are. Instead, I've been painting a bit of scenery. So,
which looks really nice.
Yeah,
I've been really impressed with those.
it is a bit of a transformation, isn't it? It
You're
was
a scenery addict, aren't you, these days? That's all you do now.
well, yes, it's it. But to be fair, I mean, I must admit, especially the garage, I was really pleased with the way that came out. All that happened was I was sorting a few bits and pieces out, and I had this old Timpo garage, Timpo farm. I had this old Timpo farm.
Well, it's
And-
probably worth a fortune.
No, because it was all because it.
Oh, you checked on eBay first.
And plus the fact it had been played with. So, because it had been played with and like bits had broken off everything and a lot of the doors are broken,
Still depends on rarity value, having seen what prices some 54mm things are going for on eBay.
Very true, but I thought, it's a fine. Anyway, but basically there's a couple of buildings. There was a chicken coop and a rabbit hutch, which I thought, could I use them in 15s as like sheds? And put a figure next to them and thought, yeah, that'll work. And kind of went from there, really. And they've come out rather well. And to say that, the garage, I was dead impressed with. I think that's probably the best thing I've built so far out of everything. Especially since it was like one of these things of, I had the idea and kind of went, okay, let's do this, and everything just kind of came together. So, I mean, unless you've seen my blog update, I don't think Luffy's seen them yet.
I've seen them.
Oh, you've seen them. Okay. Yeah, I was going to show them in the flesh tomorrow night when you cut off. Oh,
They tried to surprise me with you. Well, yeah, they don't look bad actually. All considered.
they look alright. They look alright. So I was a bit pleased with those because I've had the Peter Pig petrol station bits and pieces for ages. So it was nice to actually get that done. But that's it really. That's what I've been up to. A little bit of painting. Now that and podcast editing and writing scenarios. So first off, apologies for the 6-day delay in getting the last podcast out, but I spent 3 days looking at blank computer screens and going, what am I going to write? I don't know what to write. Sometimes you come to stuff and you just get complete writer's block. And I went through hell for about 3 or 4 days on that, just trying to get ideas down on it was horrible. But so that's what I've been doing. So basically, I lost a week because I was writing reviews and columns and stuff. Anyway, I booted on for far too long. So enough about me.
Sorry, I drifted off there.
Hobbsy, your turn.
I'm sure it's Dave's turn to do his quick reply to
A quick reply.
battle report. Yeah, I mean, was that battle report truthful?
Well, yeah, I suppose sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah. Where do I start? Where do I start now? I don't know. I'm lost for words. Complaint. I complained apparently that he'd been hiding troops in the little gatehouse that he talks about, but when he was putting them in, I was told quite aggressively that I was not allowed to see him doing what he was doing for some reason.
Because I was putting him in, and as in deploying troops, and you've got to look. So, what are you putting in there then? It's like,
you're not supposed to see that. Oh, okay.
And then he came up with this thing where when I ran out of the building, went, hang on a minute. It says, doesn't it say in the rule? Doesn't it say in the rules that if you come within 18 inches of a building, you should know it's occupied? And I went,
Yeah.
Well, A, that's daylight rules, and we're not playing daylight rules. And B, you knew it was occupied because you saw me put figures in there.
Right. But anyway, that question apparently turned into a complaint. Apparently that was a complaint. So there you go.
Hey mate, considering how many times I lose, I have to score points wherever I can. Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, I was extra aggressive that night just to try and help you out a bit, really. And yeah, I thought I'll really go for it, and I suffered a lot of casualties, but yeah, still got the job done.
What would Stalin do?
Poor old Neil, eh? Never mind.
Been up to any painting or buying of stuff?
No, buying.
What am I saying?
What are you saying? I've got plenty of stuff to finish off with yet. No, I haven't bought anything. And have I painted anything? No, I have. Well, nothing.
Good Lord, few walls.
Yeah, nothing smaller than 1-to-1. No.
So the US Airborne are still lying unloved on
Yeah,
the table.
no, they're not. They're where they were last week, still sitting on that armchair on that little bit of makeshift board I've got. Yeah. They really need to get finished, considering they're probably only about an hour or two away from actually being finished. But I don't know. I've got to crack on, really. Getting as prolific as you, not painting. You see, this is it. I've suffered for 8 years of him hardly putting paintbrush to figure at all, and then all of a sudden he's painted one army, and then that's it, isn't it? I'm in trouble all the time now.
So, are you just doing airborne? You're just doing powers, the US. You're going to do the Fallschirmjägers as well?
Well, that was my plan until a certain person that I played games with decided that he was going to buy Fallschirmjäger on the sly.
Because I play Germans. But and the fact that blooming out, if I'm not careful, he's going to nick all the elite forces, and I'll be sick of having to roll sixes all the time.
But I mean, crikey! I mean, to be honest, I mean, I'm lucky I've got regular British as well, because I mean, he had them at one point. I mean, the thing is, people don't realise with Neil is once he gets into a game, he'll buy everything, and when I say everything, I mean everything. Every single nationality that can be played in that rule set, Neil will have bought.
Yeah, and so this is normal behaviour.
Yeah, but the trouble is, when you've got a wargaming partner, the idea is actually just to leave a few things for them to actually buy.
So you're actually blaming the size of your lead pile not on your commendable self-restraint, but on the fact that Neil has none.
Well, yeah, basically, because I mean, Neil must have had a massive. Well, Neil had enough to make up every single nation's cock army before cock even came out as a game.
That sounds wrong.
And it was all, and it was all unpainted.
It's very true. I mean, I did have but then I turned around.
The Russians, don't forget the Russians.
Yeah, yes, I did have Russians. Yes,
you didn't have Finns. That was about the only thing you did leave me on the Eastern Front. I could have gone for Finns, couldn't I? You
could, but then I decided I wasn't going to play Russians.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then I turned around and said, Dave, wouldn't it be a good idea that since you've got British paratroops and you've got American paratroops, if ever we did Arnhem, then it would be really, really good if you did 30 Corps, so you could do British infantry, and that would be really good because that would make a lovely cohesive force.
Yeah. So then.
But then I nicked the
bits off you, didn't I?
Yeah, but
you had the Americans as well, didn't you?
Yeah, but then I nicked the Americans because.
Yeah, are they painted yet, Neil?
I'm still finishing painting the Germans.
Oh right, okay, yeah, fine.
I don't know. It's like listening to your parents argue, isn't it?
But this is what I'm up against, Obsy. This is what I'm up against. He just snaffles everything. It's not even he snaffles the good things. He just snaffles the lot. The only thing when we first started playing Cock that was left that he hadn't bought in his collection was Finns or British Paras. That was it.
No, I didn't have US Paras either, which is why you probably got both.
Oh yeah, sorry, US Paras. So there we go with this complaint that that he has to play British Paras every week. Goes with a little bit of a rider here, and it goes with the fact that it was the only thing I could buy that Neil hadn't already got.
It's not so much buying the stuff. It's about buying it and getting it onto the table. So you could just buy buy an army that he's already got, get it on the table, and then force him to sell his.
Oh, because let's face it, he won't have painted it.
Yeah,
the amount of hump he will have for that, it'll be harumphing for at least a year if I did that, Mike.
Now, the thing is, you're going to have about a year or so after you painted it, because it's going to take him a long to actually find them and work out that he's actually got the army.
Yeah, they're normally buried somewhere in the spare room. Oh, look, I found a rich vein of cock figures I didn't even realise I had.
My American army is in a box just above my computer screen. I'm staring at it now.
Yeah,
And
that's what you tell us. That's what you tell us.
And it's next on the list once I finish painting all my vehicles for the marvellous campaign that I'm sharing with you, Mr. Luff.
Yes.
The entire German army, that's all. Oh, well.
We could just leave these two old women to it, Hobbsy.
Yeah, this is great stuff. People don't get divorced, you two.
I mean, while these two have been wittering, I've updated the chain of command play sheet.
Oh, that's good. At least we'll have some accurate things to play with next time, eh, Neil?
You only need to reprint page 2.
See, active playtesting. What more could you possibly want?
And page 6 if you actually want it to have the correct version number.
Right.
And if there's any people left listening to this,
it's your turn.
Yeah, edit point.
Me. Right. Painting, which will come as no surprise to anybody. I've done lots and lots of 1812 stuff.
What War of 1812? That's old hat now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's so last year.
I was going to say so last week. We've been there. We've done that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Move on, you army. Yes.
Yeah. I fancy doing the Peninsula. Yeah, so done lots of those. I've done some Planetfall stuff because I just needed a break. Although I have now just gone through and done some more US officers and some Canadians for 1812, and I've just dug out a Dystopian Wars ship again, just to have a bit of a change. So
what was that officer that you put on Twitter with the top hat then?
He's a Canadian.
Oh, okay.
He's sort of like an Indian liaison officer. They used to the Indians that were fighting on the British side would quite often have a sort of British or Canadian officer running around with them, just trying to stop them from killing everybody and pointing in the right direction. So he's sort of that. But he's just like a general officer that I can use. I might use him on things like the supply trains and things like that.
Right.
So he's just a nice little figure. He came with a pack of Indians, so I picked him up. So done all that. Playing games. Easter Monday we had a bit of a get together down Firestorm, 6 or 7 of us, and we had a couple of games of Overworld, which was great fun, and then we played some Spear Point. And then Annie popped over and showed me this game she's now selling called Odin's Ravens, which Osprey.
I bet you lost.
Yeah, I did. I lost the first game, won the second. But the second wasn't against Annie.
Right. So Odin's Ravens, that's a 2-player game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a reprint. It's a reprint it's a reprint of a classic 2-player game, actually.
Yeah, I think Osprey had just done a good little game. Really enjoyed that. And, of course, shop practice. So that's all I've been playing. Buying stuff. I was doing quite well. I didn't buy that much. And then...
yes, Mr. Hobbs, you have some explaining to do. Haven't you, a young man? This, this
young man?
Yeah. This pile of boxes and envelopes that you tweeted when you kind of went, bugger, I was out when these arrived.
Yeah.
And how did you manage it that they all arrived at once?
I'm sure I'm not alone, and we sort of buy stuff in piecemeal, as you know, and you sort of think, buy this. It'll take about a week to arrive, so buy on a weekday. It'll arrive sometime next week. All is fine, all is good. I work from home, so I can get it in. Get it hidden.
Get it out of the way of the other half before they come back from work.
Is this saving up for that later? What, this old thing, I've had it for ages line?
Yeah, because usually by the time she's seen it, I would have had it for ages. So it's not technically a lie. And then Saturday, the stars went into conjunction. And like about 6 or 7 parcels all arrived at once. And I got home and they were there.
Oh, that looks so bad.
And questions were asked in Parliament.
No, just a case of, you had a delivery. So, yeah.
The postman had a hernia.
was all wrapped around with a massive, great elastic band, you know.
Blimey, you have to be a big elastic man for that much.
Yeah. Literally everything I've ordered on and off has appeared, plus some Kickstarter stuff which I wasn't expecting. So I got some more 1812 figures from Brigade Games, so they arrived. I bought one of Simon Miller's, one of Deep Cut Studios cloth mats, which I got from Simon Miller.
Yeah.
And they're really nice.
Yeah, we've just bought a pile of them for the club.
Yes, the cloth ones are really good, aren't they?
Yeah, so I got that. So I'm going to use that for the 1812 game at Margalarden in June.
My only problem with the cloth ones, in fact, with the deep cut ones, is that the plains colour doesn't match the static grass I use.
But it's the plain ones I got.
And it really shows.
Yeah.
Because it's much closer to that slightly brighter green the Citadel ones are, which is a shame because the deep cut ones are much prettier.
Well,
yeah, they are.
In that case, Mike, Mr. Whitaker, there's nothing for it. You're going to have to go back and reflock all your and put new static grass on all your figures.
Yeah, it shouldn't take too long. Don't forget to scrape off the static grass first, though.
Yeah.
So I got those. What else did I get? Oh, pile of stuff from more bases, more Sabo bases, and a couple of horses for some limbers. My Dystopian Moors and Planetfall order came from Spartan.
Hang on, Dystopia Wars and Planetfall.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, the thing is, I joined their Corinthian club, which they've just started doing, which is like, it costs 25 quid.
Yeah.
You get a 15% discount, plus every quarter you get a gift. And this quarter, the gift I got is worth 20 quid. I got a big bunker complex for Dystopian Moors. So I thought, well, that's worth it. So, I got that.
Do you get a choice? Do you get a choice in the gift you get, or do you just get sent something? Oh,
no,
it's
like 6 different things that you can choose from, and a lot of those have, the different nations. So there's like a bunker set, so you choose one of the big bunkers for any one of the 6 core nations. And they had some Dystopian Legion sort of sandbag emplacements, some space stations for Armada, and, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But each of them around about sort of 15, 20 quid's worth. So, bargain. And, I buy quite a bit of stuff directly from Spartan anyway. I like to sort of try and go to the manufacturer when I can. Yeah, so I thought, 15% off is great. So did that. What else we get? I bought an old Citadel Troll Champion, which is a figure I had when I was about 16, 17. And I saw it on eBay and it was like 10 quid. I thought, I gotta get that. So this is like, it's about 54 mil high.
Oh, right, okay.
But it's one of the classical Citadel sculpts. It might even be real powerful, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's lovely. So I got that just as a something to paint up now and again. Lastly, Sharp Practice 2, obviously, because it's Sharp Practice 2 day.
Indeed.
Yeah. And that's me. All done.
Well done, that man.
Bit short of me.
So,
there we go.
Which leaves me then, doesn't it?
It does.
So, what do we got? Apart from playing a game of Sharp Practice with you guys, had another game of Sharp Practice too, as Rich came up to the club on Monday.
So does that mean that now Rich is officially sick of the sight of you then?
Probably, yeah. In fact, our treasurer said, hang on, he's been before. Isn't he supposed to pay membership fee for his second visit? I had to point out it was actually his third.
That would only be a club treasurer that would go there.
Yeah, quite. Which was American War of Independence. We actually wound up with about the same size of game as we had down at Lard Island, and it went really well. One of the things that I think I've taken away from the couple of games I've had is just how fast it plays compared to even Duck's Brit, which is probably one of the faster play Lardy rule sets, and certainly faster play than Chain of Command. It does seem that you can get. I know now, admittedly, you've got Rich holding in your hand for the 2 games we played, but I couldn't see any issue with the standard 4th size on both sides that you wouldn't get through a game in a club evening without any problem.
Yeah, we've done it.
Yeah,
I did a demo game for the guys done a Firestorm, and I literally just had the playtest rules, so wasn't really up to speed on them.
Yeah.
But we got through really, really quickly.
I mean, I suspect that it probably helped that the thing that is common to a lot of Lardy rule sets that people tend to stop and have to think about is, given multiple groups in combat, who fights, who doesn't, etc. Which, of course, Rich carries in his head and is usually the place where you wind up having to ask him. Was probably made easier by having Rich there to explain. But in general, it's very quick, it's very easy to set up, very easy to play. I love the command flags mechanism. So that's that. Andy and I got in a playtest of one of the Dux Britanniarum Compendium raid scenarios using the stag I painted earlier, which was actually turned out as a really interesting tactical challenge that we weren't expecting at all, which suggests it may well work as a raid scenario and an honourable draw, which was fun. We are debating whether we're going to call it the Dux Britanniarum Compendium or Compendium Britanniarum. So watch this space for that one. Other than that, a bunch more.
Isn't the Britanniarum Compendium?
Or something like that. We'll work up a good name.
Far too many usernames.
I've been referring to it as the Dux Britanniarum Compendium, so it may stick at that. But I quite like Compendium Britanniarum as a proper Latin construction. The Compendium of Britain.
Plus, it does match the naming convention from Dux as well.
Yes, it does. Although Dux Raiders doesn't.
Ah, well, you know.
Yeah, you tell them. Yeah, exactly. Other than that, a whole load more 54mm figures have landed on the doorstep. I have resisted the temptation to buy a couple of boxes of French crossbowmen and Agincourt archers that turned up on eBay yesterday, which are really very tempting because they're incredibly pretty. But they're the Britain's proper historical range, and it works out at just shy of 90 quid for 12 figures.
Eek.
Which is not as wince-worthy as you think it is when you step back and realise there have been a couple of occasions on which I've paid 6 or 7 quid for a figure just because it was the only way of getting it.
Well, it's the toy soldier market, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately, the toy soldier market.
Collectible toy soldier market.
Yeah, I've also just bought a large stack of kids' cotton reels for making a bombard.
Oh, right, so you haven't gone for the
I'm not paying
bombard,
30 quid for the Britain's one, apart from anything, it has the most ugly base on it.
Sorry, how much?
30 quid.
Ooh.
It does come with 2 crew figures, but it's got a really ugly base on it, and frankly, it looks like 4 cotton reels stuck together on a balsa wood base. So I figured 4 cotton reels and a balsa wood base was probably the better way to do it.
Just hollow out a balsa. Hollow out one cotton reel. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. And the last batch from Expeditionary Force, who are a Singapore manufacturer of 54mm plastics, turned up on Saturday and were spray undercoated over the weekend in various colours. Thank you, Army Painter. And I've just got some detail picking out and chainmail picking out to do this week. And then we'll be ready for a playtest, which is good because it's only, 3 weekends away?
It's not long, is it?
It's not long, no. Are you still coming?
That's the plan. That's
awesome. The plan. We look forward to seeing you. I'm actually staying over, having discovered there's a Holiday Inn Express sitting on campus.
Yeah. Yes, I don't know if I'm on my own or with Son or whether Mr. Luff's coming, but having said that, I don't think I've invited Mr. Luff yet.
Coming where?
That would be no, you haven't invited him.
No, obviously you haven't.
Yeah.
The Royal Armouries are doing a 100 Years' War wargaming weekend.
Oh.
On St. George's Day weekend, which is the 23rd and 24th of April. Details can be found in the last podcast but 1, courtesy of the fair Kirsty.
Indeed. But and it's the week after Salute. But since you're coming to Salute, it just depends if you want to spend 2 Saturdays with me on the trot.
Indeed.
Am I going to Salute? Am I? Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Talk to your social secretary.
Yeah.
I've got your ticket.
Oh, have you? Oh, all right then.
Yeah. That's mighty neighbourly of you, Neil.
Well, you know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, other than that, I think that's about it, actually.
Someone's going to keep you company as no one else is going.
Oh, you can come and see us if you like. Other than that, I think that's about it. Anything else can be in the news section.
Indeed. And, yes, so after this extended what we've been up to, it's all Luffy's fault, you know.
I don't think it was Dave who talked about 30 minutes about a game.
No, it was Neil.
Yeah, I mean, does think he protests too much?
Yeah.
Indeed.
and on that though, I think we'll wind this up and we'll take a break.
Beat a hasty retreat, Neil.
Indeed, and come back with the hobby news. Announcements, new releases, Kickstarters. What's caught our eye? It's time to catch up with the Meeples and Miniatures hobby news. It's time to catch up with what's caught our eye in what's going on in the hobby over the last couple of weeks. Oh, quite a few things to talk about this time round. Oh, shall I start? Hey, Dave, guess what?
Guess what, Neil?
I found an army that you can paint.
What, you mean the one that you'll let me buy and you won't buy it first and then not paint it?
Well, put it this way, I'll give you the choice, because we were talking about, oh, okay, let's do another cock army. And, and you said, oh, let's do Western Desert.
Yeah, maybe in the future, yeah.
Well, Forged in Battle have just released their Afrika Korps and 8th Army infantry platoon packs. So,
and they're looking very nice.
You can get to play Germans, you can get to play decent troops for a change.
Oh. Well, I was going to carry on and play the 8th Army, I was.
Oh, were you? Really?
Well, yeah, I thought I might as well.
Was there any Paris in
only Americans.
Only Americans, yeah.
What was it? Americans in Tunisia. And Dave, does that mean then you're going to have to buy another platoon pack of US Paras so you can paint them in the uniforms?
Oh, life's too short.
And mind you, having said that, haven't you painted your Paras in Normandy uniform anyway, or have you painted them in Arnhem uniform?
No, they're in Normandy. I did some research on that, actually, and there was units that were still actually wearing the Normandy outfit right to the end of the war, and there was still plenty of that kicking around, apparently.
Oh, in that case, then, that's fine. That's fine. In that case, then you can use them in Tunisia, and it's not a problem.
Hmm.
Yeah, but okay. So in that case, then you're telling me now that you want to play 8th Army?
I might do. I don't know.
Right.
You've dropped it on me.
Anyway, so Forged in Battle, having released several bits of kit, vehicles and artillery and everything else for the Afrika Korps and the 8th Army, have finally released platoon packs, HMGs, mortar teams.
They're looking nice.
Yeah, they do look nice. I do like Forged in Battle infantry. They are nice.
My Paris painted up well, didn't they? So I mean,
yeah,
they are nice.
Yeah.
I love their figures. I'm not so taken with their vehicles.
Oh, Neil's Opal Blitz he got from them. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, but it's welded to a slab of concrete.
Well, yes, yeah. That's true. You could hacksaw it off, I suppose.
And it comes on again, the great basing discussion.
To base or not to base, that is the question.
The public back me, and you know they do.
Let's move on to Spartan Games Planetfall. They've got bases.
Yeah, they have. And so following on from last one.
Good bases, actually. Really nice bases.
Seamless link, that was.
Yeah. So we discussed last time that Spartan are going to be reviewing Firestorm Armada rules.
Yeah.
It looks like they're going to be doing the same for Planetfall and Dystopian Wars. There's a new Dystopian Wars box set coming out soon with simplified rules. And the rumours that they're going to be redoing the Planetfall. But the Planetfall, it's not a full rules rewrite, it's just a a few tweaks and just tightening up of stuff. So basically, it's going to be a bit more of a living rule book, and just chucking in the errata of things they found over the first year.
I was going to say. I mean, in our experience so far, the Planetfall rules they're pretty tight as they are, aren't they? Yeah, it's all things considered.
Yeah, this is just just try and tighten it up a little bit. But Dystopian Wars one does sound interesting, because again, that's another one of another game that's similar to Armada, where there's a lot of tokens in there and a lot of states and they have these sort of model rules called Mars, and there's loads of them, and you're trying to remember all of the separate rules that all of these units have got. So I think they're trying to simplify all of that and get them down to like a core set of abilities that units can have, so you don't have so much stuff to just to use during the game. So again, simplify, make things easier, make things faster to play, which is always a good thing.
And of course, while we're on the subject of Spartan, oh my, Halo Ground Command.
Ooh.
Yeah, they've gone for the sensible scale. At least they've probably pleased every single 15mm sci-fi gamer on the planet. It's going to be 15mm. It's going to be 15mm sci-fi Halo mass battle.
But some of us knew that over a year ago.
Some of us knew that a long time ago. Yes.
Yeah, I mean we saw some of the really early production. Sort of some of the masters for those. Neil.
We did. Back in February, they are gorgeous,
and they will be out at Salute. At least they'll be out to drool over at Salute.
They are putting on in the same way that they did a demo game of Fleet Battles last year. They're doing Ground Combat this year, so you'll get to see all the toys that they are releasing in the first year. Because I was quite surprised that actually, the orbital defense guns for the USNC. The orbital defense lasers have only just been released. They were just released last month, and it's like, cool, they were quite a way in, and yet we saw some of those actually in the Salute game last year.
Yeah, but they've. I mean, it's production stuff, isn't it? Because they're all resin. I mean, and they're resin guys, really hammered. So they have been slowly getting stuff out, but they haven't been doing massive releases. If you look at their releases over the year, they're only doing, maybe 5 to 10 new items per month, which is still a hell of a lot. But again, they're still trying to cover all of their core. I
was going to say they've got a lot of stuff to cover, and obviously they're trying to keep everybody happy. But yeah, this 15mm Halo Ground Command could go absolutely mental.
And they've done the smart thing, needless to say. It's coming out with a 2-player battle box for starters, along with a couple of upgrade boxes, which seems to be the way they're doing things of late, and certainly seems to shift units. So,
indeed, we shall have to get Neil back on the show.
Oh, the tragedy!
Get to tell us all about it. Yeah. I'll catch up with him. I'll catch up with him and Derek at Salute, and have a quiet word and see if we can convince him to come back on. Because I know he was. They were on Beast of War, weren't they, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah,
talking about it.
Yeah, Beast of War got that scoop. However, we got the big one.
Not no point scoring on Beast of War.
No, heck no.
Yes,
and the next one.
I was going to say, so yes, looking forward to that, and that has the potential to be absolutely huge. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. But it's 15mm sci-fi, so I probably won't be playing with it because I'll need to find somebody to play with.
What's sci-fi?
See, told you.
Yep. It's like World War II, but it's slightly grubbier.
Oh, 40k, you mean?
Yeah.
And on that note,
who's next?
Perry stuff.
What have Perry's been up to, Neil?
Tell us about it, Neil.
I don't know.
Perry's have been making figures to keep the Sharp Practice players happy. That's what Perry's have been doing.
I'm looking at these now. They look very nice.
Yeah.
What have they got, Dave?
Well, they've started with some colonial figures for the Cape Frontier Wars, which look very, very nice.
Oh, I say.
Apart from, there's one chap that's holding his rifle, he's marching, and he's holding his musket, and he's holding it upside down. So he's either stopping the rain getting in or he wants to shoot his feet off. I imagine that is the way. If you gave a musket to Neil, that's how he'd walk with it.
And then blame the musket.
Yeah, blame the musket. And he'd leave it fully cocked, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Recipe for shooting your foot off, or worse.
Would be no different from every other week.
Yeah, but they're good. They're lovely figures. Very nice. The unfortunate thing for me with Perry's is I love the figures. They look really, really nice. But will I ever use them? Because it's 28mm, and the answer is probably no, I won't. Unfortunately
Not
for
even
myself.
for sharp practice.
No, because we're probably going to end up doing sharp practice in 15. Neil's talking about now, and he's even talked about doing it at 6s as well to me recently.
What?
Yeah, 6s. Yeah.
We are going to have this conversation at the point where we start talking about the fact that it's sharp practice 2 day today.
Yeah.
But shall we go there now? Since we're talking about
let's save it till the end.
We'll save it to the end.
Let's come back to that one.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, because me and you have had a long conversation about that.
Yeah, we're disagreeing on that, so let's have an argument. Come on.
Yeah. But let's do it later on.
Yeah. Okay, so, Plastic Perry's, which I'm assuming is their plastic release for Salute this year.
Yeah, Sudan.
They're very nice. I tell you what, I wish what Perry's would do is I say just for me, would be they did a mix box of a few of everything that they do, so I can just sit, paint them, and just put them in my showcase. I'll never probably play with them, but just to have them.
You know you can buy sprues separately.
Can you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, that's made Dave happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get
It's
off the
like,
website, mate.
I didn't even realise that. Look, I feel such a noob now. How long have they been doing that?
Oh, years, mate. Bloody
Oh, right.
years.
Thank you. Yeah.
The other one they're doing is Egypt, the French in Egypt.
Yeah. They're lovely as well, aren't they?
Really,
Nice.
really early French.
Well, I suppose it was.
It's just plain not fair, actually, is it?
I was going to say it is one of the holes in their Napoleonic range, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a gaping hole, isn't it?
It's one of those things where if you know it's a hole, you'll think, "Oh, cool." But for those of us whose Napoleonic history is possibly not like some people's, it's really? Oh, those are cool.
Yeah, that's one of Napoleon's first campaigns. I think
Indeed.
he left his army there. When things started getting a bit hairy, he sort of came back and left the army there.
Spoken like a true general.
Yeah.
Come on with that, we chaps. You'll be fine.
Yeah. The fleet's waiting for you. Oh, hang on.
Oops. That was where Nelson lost his arm, wasn't it?
Yeah, Battle of the Nile.
Yeah.
Moving away from the Perrys and on to my good friends Grip and Beast, of which I am a wholly owned subsidiary. They got a couple of things out soon. New large battle game called Sawpoint.
Oh, right,
coming
okay.
out. And this is written by Martin Gibbons, who wrote Wab 2. And he's a wonderful chap.
And will therefore rock.
Yes.
Since fundamentally the only problem with Wab 2 was some extremely lousy proofreading and getting the right masters to the printers.
Yeah, but that was right at the end of the whole
historical saga, as it were. But yeah, we've had that set of rules in at the club because Graham, who's one of our regulars, spends a lot of time on the Wab tournament scene. He's actually had a couple of rounds of playtests with it and reports good things about it.
Ooh.
Yeah. They've done a lot of play testing for this. It's been done quite quietly. I've seen it play. It looks nice. So Sawpoint, I think, when it comes out, could be a game to look out for, especially if you're into, your ancient rule sets up to medieval. Nothing to do with Saga at all. It's a completely new game system. Good.
However,
talking about Saga,
the Age of the Wolf. And there's a part of me that very much wants to buy this. And there's a part of me, given that what I'm working on for the Lardies, I probably shouldn't go anywhere near it. for plagiarism reasons. It's a campaign supplement for Saga.
About
Written by
time.
Warwick and Wright. Yes, so the Grit Beast Boys got together with Warwick and have got this produced.
Interesting.
And it's going to be out in May.
I thought, were they not having pre-orders for Salute?
They're going to have some copies at Salute.
I
but
may
doesn't
have to
go out.
order and get someone to collect.
Yeah.
And then hide it somewhere.
It's it'll be nice to have a campaign. Hey Dave, this will be a game we can play. Other than you beating me at Charlie Command, you can remember what it's like to beat me at Saga instead.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be interesting. I was just thinking we haven't played Saga for a long time.
Long time, about 3 years.
Is it that long?
It's a while, mate. It's a while. Hey! I could get my other fully painted army to the table.
Oh, look! Listen to the boast. Look.
No,
I've got another painted army.
No, miss, my other. Well, one of them about 4. And that's about it. Yes. But I do have one other fully painted army that I can immediately go. Yes, I can play with that. There we go.
Yeah, so that should be good. I want to look at it. It looks lovely.
Right. Yes. Some of us here are privileged and have seen it. So what's it like then, Mike? Or are you sworn to secrecy?
I'm sworn to secrecy.
Oh, that's a shame.
But it looks interesting. I mean, Warwick is a good designer. I mean, Warwick writes some really good rules. And of course, we got Saga, so it'd be really interesting. And Warwick does like his medieval stuff as well. So, win-win.
Cool. Good stuff. Looking forward to that.
So, noted in passing on Facebook, Mr. Hyde has been interviewed by the folks from Miniature Wargames, Miniature Wargaming, the movie.
Indeed, got to play with clapperboards and everything.
About which I know very little, other than what I have on their website, which is a website. They've been talking to people like Foreground and Guild Ball and Wargames Illustrated and Warlord and Perry and Prodos and Hawk, so promises to be interesting.
I hope so. I hope so. I backed the Kickstarter. So I hope to get a decent...
There was a Kickstarter?
There was a Kickstarter. I was like, yeah, I'm hoping to get a decent DVD out of it at some point, because they're making like a big documentary film.
Awesome. Why are we not in it?
Why am I not in it? I just don't know the right people, or they don't know me.
Yeah, why are we not in it?
Couldn't get a big enough lens.
Plus the Prodos interview will be interesting.
We've been so not going there for so long.
Yes, we speak to Prodos Games. Where are they all gone?
Yeah. Oh, we got us some mirrors and some smoke.
Oh, back away. Oh,
Okay,
careful, boys. There are libel laws.
That's true. Prodos, lovely people. Great people.
More to the point, there are slander laws.
Okay. Prodos, interesting people.
Let's stop and back away. Remember, we're not ranting about Kickstarters at the moment.
Makes a change.
Yeah,
very true.
I find that I'm very neutral towards Prodos. How's that? There's nothing they can say about that.
Talking about Kickstarters.
Yeah. Go on then.
Do we have to?
Okay. This is one we actually had a mail through for the first time for somebody saying this might be something for your news item. So, as they mailed us, we can mention it. So this is a Kickstarter project which will probably be finishing fairly soon when this comes out.
By the time this comes out, it'll have about a week to run.
Yeah. It's a nice little concept. It's ancient wargaming on a budget, and it's called Granny Grating Armies. And the guy's running it. It looks like you get like a sheet of sort of plastic grid-like stuff, and from that you can cut out little figures, glue them to a base, and you've got a little base to play with. And it costs a couple of dollars for about an army's worth. Which, if you want to try out a new system, is a way of doing it. I mean, I don't know if I'd use them myself, but if you're really on a budget and you really want to play, anything that helps you do that is a good idea.
Can't argue with that. It does appear to come with a set of rules. Which, let's face it, given the budget nature of the figures, it's not going to be really a case of the rules will help sell the figures this time, is it?
What's the phrase? They best be decent. Yeah.
So, but it's a step up from how I used to play War Games Research Group Ancients.
What's that with cardboard?
Little rectangles of cardboard that said regular C HD bow shield.
Remember, it's only a counter, guys.
It's only a counter. Yeah, it's just if you do it properly, it's a very pretty counter. That's when it's made of lead and cost you God knows how much painting it. But yeah, fundamentally, it is just a counter.
Remember
and it's
that
still
argument?
the same game.
Remember that argument? Remember that it's just a counter. We'll be returning to that shortly, I'm sure.
And now for something completely different.
Pig Iron Productions! Hooray! They're not going away after all.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Right, okay, just an update. Remember, back in February, I think it's February, Pig Iron turned around and said, guys, we're calling it a day. And Simon and Lisa decided they were winding everything up, and then everybody suddenly thought, everybody seemed to be in exactly the same boat that I was, and went, we've been promising ourselves to buy some of that, we better buy it. And they basically completely sold out of all their stock in like 2 days. The most excellent news, it's been sold to another couple, Alex and Helen. I'm sorry, I don't know I haven't got their surname on the Facebook page at the moment. There will be a change in sculptor, since Simon will no longer be sculpting, but they're promising that it looks like they sold the whole thing lock, stock and barrel, including the website. So, the latest update was on the 2nd of April, saying that they're going to get the web store back up in the next few days, and they should be fully restocked by the end of April, and they're hoping to even look at producing some new models by the end of April as well. But the most excellent news is that Pig Iron is still going to be around, which means that things like their colonial militia and their heavy infantry and their system troopers are still around. So they aren't gone for good, and I haven't missed out. Most excellent news.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, they are absolutely stunning figures, and brilliant, good stuff. So, phew, good to see they're still around. So I suppose it's me again. Yes, new game that has recently been released, which I was sent a review copy of, which I'm still working through, and we're actually going to have the author, a guy called Buck Surdu. He's going to be coming on the show to talk all about it. But just to kind of give you a heads up, it's a game called Combat Patrol, which is World War II skirmish, completely card driven. Okay, no dice, completely card driven. Interesting set of rules. The basic rules are really easy. You start getting into some of the advanced rules, and I must admit, the first time I went through it, my head exploded. Which, considering
I wonder what that noise was.
Yes, which, considering the number of rules I get through, it takes some doing to kind of look me kind of going, I'm sorry, run that one past me again. However, Buck apparently is going to be at Partisan and running games at Partisan with Sally Forth, because they've been distributed by Sally Forth, and they've already come out with 2 or 3 free downloads. So you've got basically there's like a tin with all the cards. Then you can either buy a PDF rule set or you can get it in print. And then they're producing some free downloads. So that's for, I think they've done Winter War. They've also done a modern variant, and a few bits and pieces. Looks really interesting, and I'm looking forward to having a chat with Buck Surdu all about it. And as I say, interesting concepts, interesting thoughts, something a bit different. And we'll come back to it when we do the show in a month or so's time.
Some bad news and some good news.
Mm-hmm.
So Polyversal, which is a game that we do like.
Indeed.
We do like Ken and Byron. They as I think we all probably expected, they did cancel the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
They got to about 30k, but they decided to pull it then. It is being rebooted. They are going to do a new Kickstarter. I've been chatting to Ken and Byron about it. So they're looking at what they want to do. I think they worked out that what they wanted to do with the first Kickstarter was too much. Trying to do everything at once. It's just too much. So they're going to simplify it an awful lot, reduce the amount of pledges down to a bare minimum, and look to get, the box game and the rules out there.
Yeah.
And then things like the buildings, things like the web app can then go on to future stuff. So hopefully we should have some news soon, but it should be coming up onto a Kickstarter maybe next month or the month after, which would be good.
Oh, cool. Good stuff.
And it is Shop Practice Release Day.
It's Shop Practice 2 Day. Indeed.
It is indeed. Those jolly nice chaps from Two Fat Lardies have put it all up for pre-order. And your choices are the rules in hard copy for 25 quid. It's 120 pages, full colour, perfect bound, which is actually not that bad a price these days, folks. Really isn't.
It's a good price.
It's a good price. I've been looking at print costs for that kind of thing, and that's a very reasonable price indeed. It's what you get for being able to print a lot, basically.
This is a stupid question because I only saw the pre-order bundles as you put on the all the bits since.
He's done a new blog post explaining what's going to be in there, but
right.
So that's 25 quid. For 29 quid, you can have that plus the activation card deck, which is 40 cards for your various leaders plus your command cards. You can have the same thing with MDF chits, which I believe are being produced by Warbases, for 28 quid.
Mm-hmm. That's bundle 2.
That's bundle 2. You can have the rules, the card deck, and a set of MDF game tokens for things like units in uncontrolled fire, etc., 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 for 35 quid. You can have the same with the chits rather than the card deck for 34 quid, and you can have the rules, the card deck, the chits, and the game tokens for 38 quid. And advance orders from our club already run to 5 sets.
Yes, and it would be noted that especially the bundle deals, i.e.
are ridiculously good deals.
You're saving between £17 and £21 on all the bundle deals, and they are only available until St George's Day.
It's also worth noting that all pre-orders come with a free PDF copy as well.
Yes, so you get the paper rule set and a PDF copy of the rule set. So, great value, really good.
Great value, and I know we have gone on about these rules a bit, but they are, by far and away, the nicest set of skirmish rules for just about anywhere in the horse musket period I've played in a long, long time. Now, I know we are, I think, all unashamedly Lardies fans, if you like the Lardies side of rules. And I have to say, quite possibly, even if you don't, judging by the reaction we had from a number of people at the demo game at our club, you will love these. And it is really, really easy to get started. Go and have a listen to Rich on episode 167.
Yep.
Who will explain it all far better than I can, or read various of our blogs, Richie's blogs, Mike's blog, Neil's blog. Unless you've actually been living under a rock for the last 6 weeks, you should probably have noticed that we've been going on about it a bit, and I make no apology. It's a great set of rules.
Yeah, and they have just started producing a new set of YouTube videos for explaining the rules, which the only issue I have with that is the fact that they've named them wrong, because they still called them Sharp Practice as opposed to Sharp Practice 2. And the problem is, the first set of videos they did explaining a rule set was for Sharp Practice. So when you...
They sort badly.
Yes. But anyway, in the same way that they did with Chain of Command, they are producing a set of
Lardivision.
Lardivision. A full set of videos all about Sharp Practice. As we record, the first 2 have been done, which just talk about a basic introduction and also how force deployment works. But full set will become available. As you say, we've all played at least a couple of games. Some people have played more than that now, especially for those people that have been playtesting it. A couple of people have even seen the rules.
That'll be me.
Yes, that would be Hobbsy and Mr. Whitaker, who proofread it.
No, let's be very clear here. After the flack I got last time, I have seen a set of rules from about 2 generations before what went to press. I read the words. I didn't actually read the rules. I was looking for punctuation and spelling and stuff like that. So I'm accepting no responsibility for any lack of clarity that isn't down to abuse of the English language or the comma.
So,
and it wasn't the most recent proofread pass, though someone's had a go since me. Rich had, I think, about 4 layers of proofreading going on for various things. So hopefully these should be a very, very clear and useful set of rules.
So please, if you find any grammatical errors, that's Mike Whitaker, care of Meeples and Miniatures.
Yeah.
Save that for the Duxbury Compendium.
Especially page 16. Also, I didn't do any playtesting. And I haven't seen the full rules yet. I've only seen, again, like Mike, I've seen the draft rules for playtesting. So
I think I
That's more than some of us. That's more than some of us.
I saw the last set before they made it from Word into a PDF.
Yeah.
But it's been looked at since then by several people, including some people who've never seen it before the final version. So hopefully enough fresh sets of eyes should have caught. I mean, it's worth noting that producing a document that size without any typos, errors, bits where you've written stuff down because you've not written stuff down because you know what it means, so you didn't think it needed explaining, is actually really hard. I'm discovering this writing my bits, and I'm sure Hobbsy is writing the 1812 supplement. That just because you think it's obvious doesn't mean it is.
Yeah.
And you get blind spots to your own mistakes as well.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. But just to clarify, in the rules, as Mike says, 120 pages. The reason it's 120 pages is there are army lists and the force composition rules for French-Indian War, American War of Independence, Peninsular War, American Civil War, and the Indian Mutiny.
Which delighted Andy Hawes no end because he's been saving up a whole pile of Indian Mutiny figures.
And they're going to be doing 3 downloadable army lists covering Garibaldi in Italy, Napoleonic Warfare, Revolutionary Wars in Italy, the US-Mexican Wars, and more.
Anything else that anyone can think of.
Yeah.
Cool.
So lots of stuff. So sharp practice isn't a Napoleonic rule set. It's black powder. Well, it's musket. From 17th century onwards.
Anything horse and musket right the way up to the Indian Mutiny.
So yeah, definitely I have to get a force for this. And I was pricing up a force, because I was looking at AB miniatures, because me and Luffy had kind of had a bit of a discussion.
Have we?
Yeah.
Shut up! He says you have. You must have done.
I was about to say. Do you remember that discussion where I talked at you and you kind of went, Remember that one?
Okay, which one of those was it?
We asked the question, okay, if we played it, what scale would we play it in? And would we play it in 28s?
Well, you've hit me with about 2 scales in the last week, so I don't know where we are with that.
Yeah, well, you see, this is interesting. I didn't actually write a blog post, you see, because I thought, we'll do it in 15s, and I thought, well, we're bound to want to do Peninsular War because we've got Peninsular War armies, and some of us have even got painted Peninsular War armies.
Both protagonists. So
the thought was, well, yeah, let's do Peninsular War. And so I thought, okay, well, everybody raves about AB miniatures, so I thought, okay, I'll try and price up like a basic infantry force, to get the first stuff for AB miniatures. And funny enough, basically, if you're looking at 4 units of French line plus a couple of units of Voltigeur and a unit of Grenadiers plus some character figures, you're looking £50. And then you look at what it would cost you to do it in 28, and pretty much, with the odd exception, certainly Victrix and Perry, you could get a full French Peninsular War, a basic French Peninsular War force out of a Perry box set for £20 in 28mm.
Yeah. Someone was asking on the Sharp Practice Facebook group today about the Perry Army Deal in the Box for ACW.
Yeah.
And that would pretty much do you.
Both sides.
Really. really quite big ACW thing. You'd need a few metals for skirmishers, zouaves or things like that. But other than that, you're set for life.
Zouaves are in there.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, you get
that.
I've been looking at that box set thinking...
Is that have they done sort of selective cherry pick of a few sprues?
Yeah, you get a
nice.
load of the... It's the first generation of the ACW figures, which are a bit staticky. The later Confederates are beautiful. But, you get 170 odd figures in it. It would make 2 good armies. Plus you got all the extra commanders in there.
Two ridiculously good armies with that many figures.
Yeah, you could make 2 billion forces.
Is it about 16, 18 cavalry in there? So you could do 2 cavalry. So you could do cavalry for both sides as well. Plus there's a couple of guns, and
4 guns, building, load of fencing. I mean, it's a great deal.
It is £95, but it's an awful lot of figures and some scenery. And if you want to do ACW, there are far worse approaches. In fact, were it not for the fact that I've always said I'd do ACW in 6, I'd be tempted.
If there's
But
2
then you can't really do ACW in 6 for sharp practice. Neil's now going to argue with me.
well, you say that.
Is it that time?
You say that.
Go
Now, this is something I was thinking about, and if I'm going to blame anybody for me going down this particular rabbit hole, it's got to be Gareth Beamish. So in that case, by proxy, it's all Hobbs' fault. Okay. And,
Gareth does play Blue Cur in 6 mil.
well, yeah, fair enough, but yeah,
He doesn't play sharp practice in 6 mil.
I just had this thought, and Dave, go with me on this, and I'm sure you might approve of this. If you think about it and kind of go, well, hang on, if you rather than having a single figure, say, okay, that's a 20 by 20 base, so that's like 2 figure strips. Okay, if you're using backers figures, for example, that's 2 strips. Okay, so then your unit, you can stay with 20 mil, individual 20 mil bases, and you can base them on those nice little sabot bases that war bases do that don't have the gaps in the middle. So they will all compress nicely together, so it looks like a unit when you put them all together on a sabot base. And therefore, and so rather than having a single man, a single man will be represented by 8 figures. And as we were mentioning earlier, at the end of the day, a figure is a counter. So whether that counter is 1 man or whether it's a little base of 8 6mm figures, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Right to reply.
Right of reply.
And it also means that if I did that, I wouldn't have to buy any figures because I've got
the world's biggest unpainted 6mm French army in the world.
Well, that was also kind of where I was going. Now, Dave, do you...
About 8 kilos of French lead in 6mm.
That's a bleeping big army if there's 8 kilos of 6mm.
He exaggerates a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
But
a
not
little
by
bit.
much.
6. Probably 6.
But Dave, do you agree with me?
No. On principle, I can't agree with you. even if I agree with you, I won't on air.
Right.
Oh, no, this is where I thought for once I might, because I knew other people wouldn't agree, but I thought for once.
And I think here comes Hobbsy to shoot you down in flames. If he's left anything at the end, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Go on then.
Let me give you my view on this, Neil. A wise man once said to me...
Who was this wise man?
It's actually Sam Mustafa. Because when I do playtesting, he said to me really early on, if you change one thing, you change everything. Right? Now, technically, you can do what you just said. You can have little mini bases with 8 6mm figures on it and put them together and make a sharp practice unit. Right?
Yes.
And that all works. Lovely. But sharp practice is a large skirmish game. And what you need to look at what a group represents on a tabletop. And Rich has been really clever and said that there's no rules in there that says exactly what a group is. It's just a group of men.
It's a group of men, indeed.
It's a group of men, right. So,
You're on a losing argument here, Hobbsy.
Hang on a second.
The rule designer himself.
Yeah, it's a group of men. But it's a large skirmish game. Now, if you've got 8 figures, 60. So you'd have approximately 64 figures onto a base that would be about 4 inches by about 1.5 inches deep. Put that on a tabletop. Put that into a formation of 3 or 4 of those together. What's that meant to represent, Neil? To me, that would represent a battalion. It could be anything up to a battalion.
Right.
And then you start saying, right, we'll put some skirmishers out front. Now, you have one group of skirmishers. When you start getting to that sort of scale, your skirmishers would be going across the entire battalion, but you can't. Your skirmishers are a single group. They would then sit in the middle. And to me, it would just look wrong aesthetically, because instead of it looking like 24 figures, which might be representing a company of 100, you've now got a couple of 100 figures representing, I don't know, half a battalion or a battalion with the leaders at the back and whatever. But the ranges, you've got these micro figures, and even if you take the ranges down from inches into centimeters, musket range would be a foot. So you've got this massive great frontage that's firstly representing half a battalion or so of figure on the tabletop, with a tiny skirmish force in the front of it, not covering the whole thing, which you should be doing, firing up to sort of cannon length. Does that make sense? You're just screwing what those figures are representing. At 28 and 15, I think it would work. Even though at 15, I think the musket ranges might be a bit long.
Yeah, it's a similar reason to which I'd play I Ain't Been Shot Mum at 6, but I wouldn't play Chain of Command.
Yeah, and that's it.
And I know for a fact, because I've seen several people's photos, that I Ain't Been Shot Mum done right at 6 looks stunning. You get the huge sweep of terrain with units at realistic distances from each other. But I wouldn't do it for Chain of Command. Well, the major reason I wouldn't do it for Chain of Command is Chain of Command does have a fixed ground scale, and you'd have to play with the ground scale because at 15mm it's 1-to-1, which I know is one of the reasons you guys play Chain of Command. I know Sharp Practice doesn't have a fixed ground scale, but there are two. To my mind, there are two much bigger problems with playing Sharp Practice at 6mm. One is a really trivial one, that if you're using 7mm mini dice to mark your shock dice are bigger than your figures, which looks really silly.
Well, that depends if you use 7mm dice.
Yeah. Well, you hope your eyesight's better than mine then, mate. And the other point, that this is an era where uniforms are gorgeous. They're detailed, they're pretty. They are really, really, really nice. You're not sitting around in crappy grey camouflage or whatever. And to my mind, you're missing out on one of the glorious opportunities of playing Sharp Practice if you don't do your figures in a scale where you can actually see the uniforms properly.
There is other reasons as well. I think the support options for Sharp Practice are based around a small skirmish force. They're not based around a battalion force. You've got a support option of a mule train.
Oh, there's nothing to stop you turning that into multiple wagons. But
it's that sort of stuff. I think it just screws her over too much. And the ground scale, I think, would be wrong. I think the ranges for weapons would be too long. I think the movement rate would be too long. I just think it would look... Technically, yes, you can do it, but I don't think you'd get a good game out of it. There is something
There's also
wrong.
the whole look of the thing that would just be wrong. You'd be missing out on so much, in my opinion. I mean, if one of the things I'm seriously considering with Sharp Practice 2 is... for those who were at Salute 2 or 3 years ago, when the Victoric guys put on a lovely little Peninsular War skirmish in 54.
Yeah.
And how gorgeous was that?
Well, see, I was originally going to do the original Sharp Practice in 40, and I had a load of.
Well, there you go.
I had a load of 40mm figures, which, funny enough, I sold last year.
Aren't you wishing you hadn't now?
No, because I didn't have enough. I didn't have enough for a Sharp Practice force, and actually, most of those. Well, I suppose you can get all the pay ones, but I mean, for the price of a single figure, you can purchase what is effectively a unit in 15. So, Mr. Luff, where do you stand on this?
Where do I stand on it?
You've heard the arguments. Forget if you were playing with me. What do you honestly think? Come on, because you've been very quiet. You haven't led to my defence. You haven't let you haven't attacked me. Come on.
Okay. Let me in.
Nail your colours to the
Shut
mast,
up.
man.
Yeah, I was thinking about it actually the other day after what you were saying, and the only thing I can think the biggest problem would be is on ranges and things like that. It might start looking a bit strange, and then you might have to start having to tweak it. And then once you start tweaking it, as what Mike said, you know, what else is going to happen once you change one thing, you change something else.
Yes.
On the case of what does 6mm figures look like, and do they look grand and all the rest of it, then, well, we've seen plenty of extremely well-painted 6mm figures. I'm just actually looking on Google now, and I don't know what I've just found. I've just found some amazing 6mm figures painted up. So they can still look a spectacle, definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But it's a different type. It's a different type of spectacle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massed ranks of figures spectacle.
Well,
I'm not convinced that's quite the right feel for sharp practice.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at. If I can link this into you guys now, and you'll see these. And these, I think these are absolutely amazing.
6mm looks great, but you need to have a 6mm game for it. And I don't think Sharp Practice is a 6mm game. It's a small skirmish game.
I do agree with you regarding actually the one thought I did have bottom line was actually ground scale, and even and the fact of even chopping it down to centimeters.
Fire is too much.
Musket range becomes problematic because it is far too long.
And you then have to shrink your table size because otherwise you take forever before you actually have a fight.
What is the musket range in Sharp Practice 2?
24 inches. 36 for rifles.
Well, that's well, yeah. And bearing in mind, it'd be what 28mm is the figure.
Yeah, I mean,
see, you can do it in 15. I don't see any problems with 15, and we've also not touched on the thing that Hobbsy's just pasted in our recording chat link.
24 inches.
Man at War.
That's massive.
It is. It's very long, but I think if you did a 15, I would take it down to centimeters, and I think that would work.
Even at 28mm, I think that's massive.
It's not. It's only a third of the table.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the first 12 inches is your effective range. Not
very good.
No. Yeah, but that's where you want to be. You want to be within 12 inches before you start doing anything.
Waste your first volley.
When you're shooting at 24, you're just wasting powder.
Is it not very good? I mean, it shouldn't be very good.
You're pretty much hitting.
I mean, if you're effective with a decent line battalion with first volley and controlled fire, you're hitting on threes. As soon as you move out to beyond effective, that becomes fours or worse.
Because the reality is they came towards about 50 yards before they opened fire.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand it and plus the other thing is that yes, of course you're playing it on a smaller table. You'd be playing it on a 2x3 or 2x4.
Which rather wastes the very nice piece of woodworking in Luffy's front room, doesn't it?
You know what? I feel a challenge coming on now, to be honest, Neil. I just feel like doing it anyway, just to prove these two wrong. I've got some.
As I was saying, Hobbsy's just pointed out that your other source of 15mm is Man at War, Napoleon at War. You got a whole French infantry brigade, which is 120 figures for €36.
Yeah, thing is with that. I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, they are getting very difficult to come by now, aren't they?
I've got 9 boxes of them sitting at home. They're not that hard to find, actually. There's still a couple of folks in the UK import them. Man at War are still producing them.
Yeah, and you got New Line as well.
Yeah,
which are effectively meant to be 20mm, but they fit in with the Napoleon War figures beautifully.
Yeah.
So there's lots of options out there. I just don't think 6mm is one of them, Neil. Play Blucher with 6mm.
Well, we are planning on playing Blucher with 6mm, but it was a thought. I kind of went, and if I did that, I wouldn't have to buy figures.
You would.
But having said that, yes, I did then caveat it. But then, where's the fun in that? So, Dave, what do you want? So, do you want British or French?
Or Spanish, Dave. Go Spanish. Underrated the Spanish.
Underrated the Spanish. Well, we're going to do Peninsula, aren't we?
Well, what do you reckon?
I don't know.
Spanish partisans fighting in the rear. Ooh, that'd be good.
Ah, there we are.
Yeah, don't tempt me, actually. Yeah, that'd be quite interesting.
Or could I interest you in War of 1812?
Yeah, you probably could, actually.
You get Indians.
Yeah. How about that, Neil?
I've got French-India War.
I'm just thinking, if we did sharp practice, maybe we should do sharp practice in a different flavour than like what we're going to use the 6mm figures for.
Now he's talking.
No!
Spoken like a true war gamer.
So like, we're going to end up having like Napoleonics in like 2 or 3 different scales.
And
knowing...
And?
Well, yeah, it's all very well, Mr. Whitaker, for you to say and. But remember, I'm playing with Neil Shuck. Now, I've known Neil for 9 years, is it now, Neil? And in that time, Neil has managed to paint 3 armies. So, I'm just being realistic here.
but this is the all-new Neil Shuck, who actually paints stuff.
Oh, look! One army does not make a war, Neil.
To be fair, his recent hobby activity reports have prompted, on more than one occasion, the remark, "Who are you and what have you done with Neil Shuck?"
Well, this is it. I mean, look. One army, and all of a sudden, he's Henry Ford, isn't he? Mass produced.
That would involve painting everything black, surely.
That's right. Yeah. Well, he does that first.
Oh, don't.
Large army of Brunswickers.
Oh, there's a point. I've always had a soft spot for Brunswickers.
Yeah, me too. They're just a sod to paint, because actually painting black and making it look convincing is actually surprisingly hard.
Well, it's a lot easier now with the washes, because you just, get black, dry brush on a nice grey, and then give it a black wash, and it just looks great.
Does it? Is that what sort of grey do you use? A dark grey, a slate grey, or?
Yeah.
We paint a uniform grey, which is sort of a mid-grey, but you want a very light dry brush.
You can go fairly heavy, to be honest with you, because you can put one or two washes.
I suppose you're going to knock it back with a dark tone wash, aren't you?
Yeah, and that just works a treat. And it's so easy. It really is.
Oh, there we are. Could do Brunswickers. How about that, Neil?
Have we done this news item to death? Because we do have one more, and I know Hobbs is drooling.
Yeah, go on then. Let's move on from the 28 versus 15 versus 6 debate. I'm sure
Carl, come on, you have missed 2 mil out of that. Just as Sydney.
And rice armies.
Moving
swiftly on.
We can always put it in the hands of our wonderful listeners. Do a poll. Ask people to vote on what army you should buy next, Neil.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
Now, specifically, what army and what scale should Neil use for sharp practice?
You see, they are. If we did, there's an excuse there for me to buy some Perrys. Oh dear.
What, in 28?
28. Well, yeah.
Yeah, but
54?
No, do 28. No, we do 28.
Do French Indian Wars? Be lovely. You got lots of trees.
I've got
lots of trees there.
I've got lots of French Indian War figures because I put them all for muskets and tomahawks, and I never painted them.
What scale are they, Neil?
28 mil.
Problem solved. Get on with it.
I don't know where they are.
Oh,
That's not my problem.
They're in a box somewhere.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, Hobbsy, come on. Put us out of our misery. Last one. Okay, we appear to have had a slight miscommunication here in that I thought Hobbsy was taking this news item, but since I found it, Redadra, those lovely people who make plastic figures for everybody else, also, as most folks are probably aware, have a little range of odd random scenic things like Watland Orb fencing, ACW snake rail fencing, etc. They are bringing out, for salute, a 28mm castle.
In plastic.
And you may wish to bleep the next bit, but holy the resulting tower, if you buy their standard castle deal, it is admittedly 260 quid, but it's freaking huge! It's nearly a metre square! It's 6 inches high at the wall and nearly a foot at the towers. It looks amazing, and I can't afford one.
How many 6mm figures could you buy for 260 quid?
Waterloo, or most of it.
All of them.
But yeah, it does look It does look quite stunning. Their sample shots are make it look really nice. I mean, given the slight disappointment with the Kickstarter from whoever it was, the not Kickstarter from whoever it was a couple of years ago, and I'm blanking on who it was, for the castle pieces. Help me out here, guys.
I don't know. You backed it.
I didn't back it. Carl from our club backed it.
Oh, right.
And it was...
Let's just say it was somebody. Somebody did a plastic...
Somebody did indeed do a plastic, whatchamacallit? Castle. Their Kickstarter-y thing didn't go very well. But this it's Renadra, which is a good... Tabletop Workshop. That's what it was.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yes. And, sad to say, that didn't go very well, but the Renadra one does look very nice indeed. I have to say, it's not cheap, but then it's not small.
As I say, at the point where, congratulations, you found a piece of scenery that makes Whipping Beast Great Hall look cheap. I know a lot of people have been looking at it for on the Frostgrave Facebook page.
The castle.
Yeah, especially when they first posted the tower. That had a lot of people going, ooh, for Frostgrave. So there's...
Yeah. Well, we have actually... The club has, because we picked one up second-hand for a stupid price, Gripping Beast Great Hall, which we've actually used for the library scenario in Frostgrave, which worked really well.
Yes. So, yes, it just looked very nice. And it's like... Yeah, but it's one of those one-of-a-kind sort of purchases, isn't it?
Yes, it's one of those, does the club want to buy one of these, and do we have enough space to store it if we do?
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's unlikely, until we've got our scenery storage stuff, because I'm currently the extension scenery storage for the club, and I'm running out of space.
I've just been looking at what the Perry's been doing, because they've been playing around with the parts from this.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah.
Just wow.
This will be good. This reminds me of a more up-to-date version, probably prettier version of the old Warhammer castle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which I've got in my attic. Half painted.
Brief. Their large castle, their large castle deal is £290. It's 86 centimetres by 80 centimetres, so pretty much a metre square. The wall sections are 8 inches long and 6 inches high, and I think a box comes with 5 of them, and the large castle deal comes with 8 boxes of those, and then a gatehouse and 7 towers. It's quite, I mean, it's quite ridiculous in the nicest possible way.
Yes,
I think you could get away with maybe half that.
Well, quite often you find that what you actually want is half that with the other half off the table, isn't it?
Yeah, you sort of want a nice sort of castle wall to go over one corner of a table.
I mean, we have for ducks, we have a piece of city wall and a gate. We don't have the rest of the city. But yeah, it's actually probably bigger than any of the Grand Banner ones, and probably still cheaper.
Oh,
yeah.
True.
So there you have it.
Well, that went on for a bit longer than expected, as far as the hobby news section was concerned. So, at that point, I think we'll draw this part of the podcast to a close, and we'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll be speaking with Robey Jenkins and finding out all about Horizon Wars. Should be good. Have you ever wondered what's going on in wargaming? We do too. So come with us as we go behind the hobby with the Meeples and Miniatures interview. It's my great pleasure to welcome back to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast, Robey Jenkins. Hello, Robey.
Hello, Neil.
How you doing? You alright?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Oh, it was ages and ages ago since we last spoke. It was back in
2012.
episode... 2012, yeah, episode 99. For those of you who want to dive back into the archives and look it up,
it's not worth it.
We were speaking to Robey about various different bits and pieces. What was it? We were talking about Minicon, was it?
Minicon, that's right. It's our local war games convention in Gloucestershire. Yep, which is now into its 6th year.
Oh, great! Fantastic stuff. Because, as I say, it was. You'd done your first one and were just planning your second, I believe, when we spoke.
We'd had our very first effort, which was in a very small venue, and we decided that it was time to go a bit bigger, and so we moved into the sports hall at the National Star College in Cheltenham, and we've been there now for the last 4 years. And we are just trying to decide whether it's time to move to a larger venue, because we were absolutely at capacity this year.
Right, so it's going well then.
Really good year. This year has been by far the best year, both in terms of footfall and, most importantly, the amount of money people were spending.
Okay, so for those of people who may have missed Minicon and haven't got a clue, is it just a war game show, or is it a bit more than that?
It is primarily a war games show. It's mostly trader focused, in that most of our income comes from the traders paying for their tables. But we have a big emphasis on people coming to play games. So we really try and encourage both our traders and any clubs that are coming to actually lay on a game. And we offer a sort of a small discount to traders if they lay on a demo game for people to participate in. And I think we had... I think we were at 14. I think we had 14 separate participation games this year for people to get in on. And a very popular section is the Bring and Buy, which is run by the Cheltenham War Chiefs, which they have a separate little room in. And every year I pick up some spectacular bargains and get rid of some old junk. Sorry, some amazing deals that I dispose of.
So you guys are still persisting with a bring and buy rather than a tabletop sale type format?
Yeah. No, we've found it a really good, well-run system, and it's the guys at Cheltenham War Chiefs that make it happen, actually, because they come every year, and there's 3 of them on the table all the time. So we've not had any problems with shoplifting, with people running away from stuff. They're all fully empowered to haggle on your behalf. So you just let them know if the key thing is to sell stuff and you're happy to flex on prices. They've been really, really good. And yeah, I mean, they turn over, I think this year they turned over about £200 worth of stuff.
Awesome.
All of the proceeds, incidentally, go to charity. Mm-hmm. Our main charity is the Gloucestershire Deaf Association. But obviously, because we're based in the National Star College, which is a college for children with special educational needs and disabilities, a lot of our income goes to them as well.
Cool. And what time of year is it?
It's always the day after Crusade. So you have Crusade on the Saturday in Penarth, and then Minicon in Cheltenham on the Sunday. This year it was the last day of January, I think, 31st.
All right, so so it really is one of the early ones of the year then.
That's right. Yeah.
And that probably explains why I've never seen her, because I'm usually hungover on the day after Penarth.
Can't imagine why.
Well,
but it's great for the traders who've made the hike down to Cardiff. They get to kind of one weekend and they get double the show.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, because as I say, it's not that far, is it? So
it's a fair way, but to be fair, it's also on its way back to most places.
Well, this is it. As I say, effectively, you're kind of falling off the M5.
Yeah, once you're heading up the M5, you might as well stop in Cheltenham on the way.
That's it too. Fantastic. Well, basically, in the last 4 years since we last spoke, other than running Minicon, what have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been an interesting 4 years. Well, for a start, you may recall the last time we spoke. First of all, I was running a thing called Precinct Omega, which was my painting commission service. Yes. Now, I'm very proud of the fact that I ran Precinct Omega as a painting service for 5 years and just about managed to turn a profit on it. But I eventually...
That's quite impressive. That's quite impressive in itself, I think.
I was pretty pleased. But eventually I had to accept that it was not working as a long-term business. I'd always intended it, really, when I started it, the idea was that it would raise capital that I could then put into a proper games business. And I tried to do that. Towards the end, I tried to develop a miniatures line and a fantasy skirmish game, and it never went anywhere because by the time it was even a quarter of the way towards being ready, I ran out of capital. And I decided that this was not going anywhere. So I went back, and I've got a proper job now. I'm back in human resources, yay. But I work part-time in human resources, and the rest of that time I've now turned to my other great love of games design. And the last time we spoke, I was telling you about Mecha War, which was...
Yeah, which was your... what was the cash line? Something for £1, wasn't it?
It was £1 War Games.
£1 War Games, that was it? Yeah.
That was it. It was basically at the point that I'd given up on the idea of trying to actually make any profit out of wargaming. So I was putting this stuff out just for the love of it. And I wrote Mecha War very quickly and put that up on my website for people to download for £1. And I subsequently wrote a sequel to that called Airframe that added aircraft to the same rules. And then I was working on a beta test of a game called Battle Group, which was totally not related to another game by a similar name, which was actually just the conventional forces section of the same rules. So it was mechs in the first one, then aircraft, and then everything else. But as I was just finishing up the beta test of Battle Group, I thought to myself, it would be really nice to publish these as one set of rules. So yes, people can buy each set for £1, but it would be good if I could just mash them all together so that somebody could just buy one set of rules with all of them in for, I don't know, £2 or something. Right. And I was just putting that together, and I thought, it would be nice to do this properly. It would be nice to get an artist, illustrate it, really good photographs, loads of miniatures, decent production values. I wonder if I could kickstart it. And I thought, that sounds like a lot of work.
That went like madness.
Yeah, so before pitching myself down that particular hellmouth, I thought, well, I've still got an email address for Phil Smith at Osprey. I'll drop him a line, just on the off chance that he's interested. So, I wrote to Phil and I said, look, Phil, I've got this set of rules that I'm looking to do something with. Are you looking for something like this? And he came back almost immediately and just went, yeah, we're really interested. So, I seized the chance and went, brill, and I polished off the manuscript just as quickly as I could. And we came to an agreement and hence Horizon Wars, which is why I'm talking to you today.
So the manuscript you polished off... Is that actually what we see now as Horizon Wars, or has it kind of developed since then?
It hasn't developed a huge amount. I mean, if I just give myself credit, Mecha War itself was a pretty simple set of rules. And you don't mess when it works. So I haven't messed a lot with the rules as they appeared in Mecha War. They've become a little bit more sophisticated because they had to accommodate a different range of elements from the first game. But by and large, if somebody bought Mecha War and bought Airframe and was lucky enough to get a beta test copy of Battle Group, then 90% of the rules are exactly as they appear in those books. Some of the terminology has changed, the names of the stats have changed slightly, and I sort of rejigged it all to accommodate all the different elements. But 90% of the rules are exactly what they were back in 2012.
Okay, so at the point where you then handed the manuscript over, was that the end of your involvement? How does it work from there, especially when you're working with a publishing house like Osprey?
Well, it's an interesting thing, and people, I guess, don't really appreciate that Osprey Games, the part of Osprey Publishing, which is itself part of the Bloomsbury group, that deals with games, is a really small team. There's only 3 of them. You've got Phil, who does war games. You've got Duncan, who does board games. And then, of course, Joe McCulloch, author of Frostgrave, who is their publicity guy.
Yes.
And it's only the 3 of them on the permanent staff, as it were, of Osprey Games. And they've roped in various really volunteers from the rest of the company who are themselves war games curious to help with this and that. But basically, it's just the three guys. And Duncan doesn't have anything to do with war games. So it's really just Phil and Joe. And Joe's only interested when a book is finished and it's ready for publishing. So really, it's only Phil.
Right, okay.
So once the manuscript is there, Phil's job is to take the author's manuscript and make it into a sellable property. Now, in our case, that really meant three things. That meant layout, that meant art, and that meant photography. Now, I said at the start, well, look, I've got this very large collection of 6mm miniatures that I've acquired, many of which I have to say were donated by manufacturers specifically to help me develop Mecha War and its sequels. I really want to get those into the book. You know, they're all painted. I'm a good painter. They look fine. Why don't you let me do the photography? And Phil went, yeah, fine, you do the photography. So that was immediately off his plate. And the layout couldn't really be done until everything was finalized, and then Phil could hand the manuscript over. So that really just left us with the art. Now, I have pretty good connections in the world of fantasy and sci-fi art. Years back, I was a member of an online forum called Ordo Illuminatus, which was basically dedicated to Warhammer fan art.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's been amazing. I made friends and contacts through that forum, and the forum's pretty dead now, I think. I haven't been on it for about 10 years. But I made friends and contacts through that I've stayed in touch with through other art sites like DeviantArt and ConceptArt.org, and seen them develop from being just enthusiastic amateurs through art school, through just developing their skills and learning new stuff and becoming fully fledged professional artists. And so I've got a number of good contacts and friends in the field, and I was really keen to get one or two of them involved in the project. But as it turned out, the chap who illustrated Mecha War for me, I say he illustrated it, basically he let me use art that he had already made. It was a chap called John Gonzalez, and I really wanted John on the project. And Phil was really keen as well. But unfortunately, John had already just picked up a commission to do concept art for a mech-based computer game. And the terms of his contract with them were they didn't want him doing other mech illustrations while working for them. We were like, well, mechs are kind of important to the game. So that didn't pan out, unfortunately. Phil then found another artist, and we thought, he's going to be really good. And about a month after he was commissioned, he got offered a full-time art gig, and so was off the score. And we're like, two artists down, what are we going to do now? And Phil contacted a guy that I'd not had personal contact with before that point, but whose work I already knew, called Jasada Suthi. And I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, because we've never spoken in person, although we've communicated. Jasada is based, I'm going to get this wrong now. My brain is saying Indonesia, but I could be completely wrong, and he will be very rude to me when we next speak. But his work, and if you want to have a look at his portfolio, he's on DeviantArt, which is deviantart.com, and he's called Jasada Art, which is JESSADA-art. And it's really worth looking at his stuff because he really is very, very good. And I then worked with Phil on a brief for the illustrations that we wanted in the book. Those went to Jasada, and he turned them around so quickly because we'd been through three artists and we were really getting up against it. And he turned the briefs around brilliantly, and he really knocked it out of the park, did some excellent work. I'm so happy with the art in the book.
All right, so all the full page arts in the book are his.
All of it. Yeah, and that was something else that we were really keen on.
Some of those are absolutely many of those are completely stunning.
His DeviantArt page up. The man has talent.
Yeah,
indeed.
Stunning.
Yeah, and it's stunning art. Particularly the front cover in particular is just delightful. I was so thrilled with it. There were two things I really wanted in the art that just because of the amount of art we had and the way it was laid out, that just couldn't quite happen the way I wanted, which was to have more visibility for ethnic minorities and women in the artwork. Because it's something which I've always felt is really lacking in particularly sci-fi war games art. It seems to be a very Caucasian male future.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
And there is at least one illustration that is a woman. She does have boob armor, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame, but it's still an excellent piece of work. And the front cover, because the main characters have actually got their backs to you, you can't tell. But I promise at least one of those guys is black, even though you can't see him.
Okay, so having gone through and got all the artwork and got it all sorted, so how long has this? I mean, I know. You were producing Mecha War, say 4 years ago, but from the point where you kind of first got in touch with Osprey to the point where we've got Horizon Wars done, dusted, ready to go. But how long did that process take?
It was to the point that I received the PDF proofs of the finished book. It was almost exactly 2 years to the day.
That's pretty good going, actually.
It's good going. And now, that was partly... There was an element of that. I mean, it was December when I pitched the book to Phil and he accepted it. It was the following March, I think, that we actually had an exchange of contracts. I delivered the finished manuscript the following June. We had finally nailed down an artist by September, and then basically the rest of the year was spent tweaking the rules very, very slightly and adding and rejigging some of the manuscript into slightly different order and fleshing out some of the setting as well, because there is a setting in the book. Several settings, actually. And then it was the main reason that it wasn't released soon. Well, partly photography, because having committed to the photography, then I suddenly realized that although I had hundreds of miniatures, I had an astonishing dearth of actual terrain. Because I'd always worked with very basic terrain, and I thought, I can't put this in a book. It's little cardboard boxes and plastic cubes and stuff. I can't put this in a book. It needs to look proper. So I then had a bit of a frenzy of terrain building with every piece of junk I could lay my hands on. And finally, I got my brother-in-law around, who has a much, much better camera and photography setup than I do. And he did all the photography with me doing the setups for it. And finally, we got the photography delivered. But the main delay really wasn't that anything took a while. It was more that Osprey's publishing schedule was full until April 2016. And that was the first opportunity to get a product like this to the market.
Right. Because, I mean, for the first set of rules, I mean, it's quite chunky, isn't it?
It is. It is. Now, I mean, I don't want to do down my own product before it's even been launched. There is some evidence in the rules, having finally seen it physically, all of a sudden you see your own errors. There is some evidence that it's my first set of rules. But I'm happy to say it's not in the core rules. Those are all very solid. But I still look back now, having got the finished book, and I think, I could have done that just a little bit better, and that hasn't quite been explained as clearly as I'd like it to have been. But inevitably there will, I'm sure, be an FAQ. And people who like it will like it. So it's good.
Okay, so for those people who don't want to go back and listen to episode 99, I can't think why that would be, but there we go.
I was planning on it.
So first off, why sci-fi, why mecha, and why small scale?
Why sci-fi is, well, two reasons. First, I mean, I'm a big sci-fi fan, always have been. 40k was my first proper miniatures game. I've been a sci-fi reader always. So it was a very natural place. But it's also a good place to set a miniatures game of this type, because you don't have to get too bogged down in realism. You can abstract a lot with the wave of a hand and just go, it's science. It's technology. Magic does it. It all works. So it's a very convenient setting. Why mechs is... Well, I started with mechs
And I suppose if you like sci-fi and you like military sci-fi, mechs are kind of an inevitability somehow. It doesn't seem to matter what the setting is or how true to life somebody wants their sci-fi military setting to be. At some point, somebody will have a stompy robot with guns.
Although it's fair to say, in the introduction to the rules, you do kind of turn around and go, well, the rules are kind of designed around the fact that that mecha are the ultimate fighting machine. However, the actual possibility of this actually becoming the case is probably a lot less than people would want it to be.
Exactly. Yeah. No. I mean, I'm an ex-soldier myself. I know from first hand the limitations that would face the reality of a mecha, even if the technological challenges could be overcome. I think anything other than extra solar system warfare far into the future, the mech suit is simply not a thing and is never going to be a thing. But that doesn't stop it being fun imagining that it might be. And so I had fun not only writing rules that assumed that they were feasible, but also a setting in which they might actually make some form of sense. And it has to be said that humanity is not a logical species. We do so many things that, let's be honest, don't make any sense at all. It isn't that much of a stretch to go to mechs and say, yeah, maybe they could happen. Maybe we are insane enough to do that.
It's never stopped the Robotech guys or the Battletech guys or
quite.
Even 40k.
That's it. And Mecha War, back at Mecha War, and this has always been my thing, is I started Mecha War because I was skinned. And all the cool mecha games were just too much money. I just couldn't afford to play them. But EM4 Miniatures made these wonderful, super cheap plastic mechs.
Oh,
and I thought, why isn't there a game I can play with those? And everything followed from there, really.
Yeah, because they made those two sprue. Oh, I think they still do, don't they?
They do. They do.
Yeah, those two plastic sprues, one of mech and one of aircraft.
Yeah, and almost all of the mechs and aircraft in the rule book are EM4. There are a few others that appear. There's some Wargames Emporium mech appears. A couple of Cav mechs appear. Actually, a couple of 15mm crab drones from GZG appear as small mechs. I'm not sure what else, but I think the vast majority of mechs that appear are EM4 plastic mechs.
Okay, so can you give us some idea of, and so especially when you're turning around and saying, I designed my own game because I wanted to play mechs.
Yeah,
and
that was cheap.
And it was cheap. So, given that, can you give us an idea of what sort of game size Horizon Wars is?
Yeah.
And how many minis do you need?
It's very much designed at the company plus and below.
Right.
So it is not your grand strategic sweep of battle as battalion clashes with brigade, clashes with division. If that's your taste of game, you can play it with Horizon Wars, but it will take forever. I started playing Horizon Wars with the mechs out of a single EM4 box, and that's 5 models. So it's almost like playing a battle scale skirmish game.
Right.
Now I have played games up to, you get 9 points straight out of an EM4 box, and I've played games up to 36, played one game of 45 points, and the rules work fine, it just takes longer. But it is, a turn takes a long time at 45 points. And I like games to take 4 or 5 turns at least. And at 45 points, you're going to be looking at really 3 turns for by which point the game will have been decided. And I always felt that was just a little bit not enough. Not enough game, too many miniatures. But yeah, company plus, and you'll be fine.
Okay, so from a physical number of miniatures is concerned,
yeah,
what are we looking at?
The nature of the game is that everything's based around elements.
Right, okay.
And how you define an element is largely up to you. But to my mind, as I wrote it, an element is a squad of infantry, a tank, a mech, an armoured fighting vehicle, an artillery piece. They're all an element. And each element is given a presence value between 1 and 3. And that presence is supposed to dictate what their impact on the typical battlefield is going to be. So presence 3 is very impactful. These are your major strategic pieces on the tabletop. Presence 1, much less impactful. Likely to be more fragile, likely to be less capable, but you can field more of them in one go. So in a 9-point battle, you could have as few as 3 elements or as many as 9. So it really depends on how you want to frame them. So a light infantry squad is presence 1. A light artillery piece is presence 2. A tank is presence 3.
Right.
So what sort of size do you recommend as a sort of standard game? Would it be sort of 18 points, 20 points? Or was it a bit less than that?
It purely comes down to how long does somebody want to be playing for. But I think the sweet spot is between 15 and 25 points, in my opinion. That'll give you enough points that you can get some really interesting tactical breadth in your force. It'll give you enough freedom to really exercise the army building options so that you can customize some of your elements, perhaps add some upgrades to really give you some tactical twist. And yet, at the same time, it won't have so many elements on the table that you're there till the next day playing.
Yeah, I suppose that would give you about a dozen elements on average?
Roughly. Yeah, roughly.
Okay, so we've got our figures. Before we actually start playing, what else do we need? Oh, just to check, is there any particular basing convention as far as your figures are concerned?
Definitely not.
Right, okay.
I use 2p pieces for the vast majority of my models, but I've also used square bases, round hex, you name it. It all seems to work fine.
Okay, so basically, whether we're mounted on round or square bases, or even, to be fair, whether you've got a single tank on a base or whether you've got multiple tanks on a base,
exactly.
It's one element.
Yep.
And you can go from there. Oh, cool.
Yep. Yeah, if I've got one tank on a base and he's presence 3 and you've got 3 and that's also presence 3, I've just got a better tank than you have. So you need to hear them.
And, okay, so what else do you need as far as just the nuts and bolts of what you need to play?
Nuts and bolts, obviously table, terrain, tape measure. You'll need some 12-sided dice.
12-sided
12-sided dice. D12s. The game is a D12 game.
Immediate question, why D12? Because of everything, it's not the one that most people think. I mean, these days, okay, several people have moved away from D6s, but if they've gone anywhere, they've gone to D10s.
D10s.
So why D12?
Why D12? It's a complicated... The full answer is very complicated. The short answer is really short. The short answer is because it works. Once you understand the mechanics, you'll see why D12s. Because the range from 1 to 12 fits with what you need to do statistically. It's hard to go beyond that. I did a lot of maths, and it would be very boring to talk you through it.
Oh, we've got somebody who's listening to you at the moment who will be prepared to go toe-to-toe with you on that one.
I'm sure.
Wouldn't you, Mr. Whitaker?
Do.
Well, in which case, I'm sure Mike can tell you that mathematics conducted in base 12 is far more efficient and easier than mathematics conducted in base 10.
Does go all the way back to the Babylonians, doesn't it? Base 12.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, it is mathematically extremely satisfying, base 12. It's the reason that we have 24 hours in a day and 12 inches in a foot. And even... Oh, I'm trying to remember what else there was. There was something else which is 12.
Oh, right. So is this
gone.
is that one of the reasons why the very first comment in the background is it all started with the British? Because it's 12 inches in a foot.
Not directly. No. Although we'll come back to that if we have time to talk about the setting. I'll explain why it all started with the British.
Fair enough. Okay, so
it
D12s.
It just worked, and that's all I can say. I had written the non-starter fantasy game that nearly bankrupted me, which is still a good game, and I'll do something with it one day, was also a D12 game, but it only ever used one D12. So it wasn't like I had heaps of D12s lying around, and I absolutely categorically was just determined to use them. I had used D12s already and just found them such a lovely dice to use. And also, aesthetically, they strike a nice balance. Because they're a proper platonic solid, their number shows vertically and centrally, like it does on a D6. Like it does on a D20, but on a D20, of course, the face is so much smaller. I mean, I play Infinity, and I love it. But the faces on a D20 can be hard to read across a table. And you have to just take your opponent's word for it that they rolled what they rolled sometimes. But D12s, they're nice big surfaces, nice big numbers. It's always very clear what you've rolled. So aesthetically, a D12 works as well.
Okay, so with D12s...
You need D12s. You shouldn't need more than 10, and you will usually need fewer.
What? Okay.
It depends somewhat on how you design your battle force, but by and large, 10 will be the most you should ever need.
Okay, so measurements in inches.
Yes.
And do you need anything else? Do you need any counters or anything like that?
Yes, you do. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, you'll need counters. As I said, I was cheap when I wrote this, so the only counters you should need are two-sided counters, fairly small, and you'll need quite a few of them. I recommend pennies.
I was about to say, there's some quite nice round copper ones you can get for about 1
Yeah, exactly. Did you find? Now, as it happens, I have since purchased a nice set of 15mm wooden bases, circular bases, bought them from a trader on eBay, cheap as chips, and I sprayed one side white and the other side black, and they work really nicely. But pennies is where I started. So pennies are fine.
And if you get bored, you can always play Othello with them.
Yes. Yeah. Or go. Yeah.
Yes, or go. Yes, indeed. Right, okay. So that's what we need to get cracking. So can you give us an overview of how the rules work? So we're starting with elements. What type of elements have we got, and how is each element defined?
Okay. So the first elements to talk about are mechs and aircraft. Mechs and aircraft each come in 3 flavors: Presence 1, Presence 2, and Presence 3. In both cases, you get a stock of points, depending on their presence, to spend on the element stats. So you build aircraft and mechs from the ground up. And I'll talk about mechs because they're everybody's favourite. A Presence 1 mech gets 11 points, a Presence 2 mech gets 14, and a Presence 3 gets 17. And you spend those on the 4 stats, which are movement, firepower, armour, and defence.
Alright, so basically you haven't got like a fixed medium mech, for example, or fixed light mech.
Nope.
It's a case of, okay, what do you want this to be?
Each mech is an individual. They're your special characters, if you like.
Right, okay.
The other elements in the game, the conventional elements, all come with a fixed stat line. There is some room to customize, but they start from a fixed stat line. And the conventional elements are light infantry, airborne infantry, mobile infantry, which covers everything from cavalry through to jump packs, special forces, heavy infantry, recon, which could be drones, could be infiltrators, whatever you fancy. Then you've got light cavalry, heavy cavalry, and I've specifically called them that and not tanks because heavy cavalry could be a lot of things that aren't a tank, but they fulfill the same battlefield role because it's all defined around your battlefield role rather than what you actually are. So light cavalry, light artillery, and heavy artillery. Did I mention heavy infantry? I think I might have missed them.
Yes.
Heavy infantry as well.
Yep.
So those are the conventional elements, and you pick your selection from them. Now, when you're army building, there are a lot of options. It's not as involved an exercise as, say, building a 40k army out of a codex, or even building an infinity army their army builder. Once you're familiar with the rules and know what your options are, building a Horizon Wars army you can do at the start of the battle. You can literally sit down for the battle, decide what you're going to play, and say, right, here's my army list, here are my miniatures, I will pick these 9 elements, and here is my army list. And you'll just be able to write it straight down in 5 to 10 minutes before you start play. But even with completely new players who've never played the game before, I've sat them down, I've explained the principles, and we've had army lists written in 15 minutes. And there aren't really any bad choices. There are choices that are better for your mission than others. And that's what it comes down to. Which I suppose brings me to the next thing. I have included in the book 3 ways to play the game. One is the standard cop-out, make up your own mission. And I've given some sort of hints and clues and guidance, but otherwise I've left it to people to make up their own. The other is with what I call set-piece battles, and these are your standard, everything is explained for you at the start of the game. You've got fixed objectives, you've got fixed deployment zones, you've got fixed numbers of points that you use in each side. But the third is the most, in my opinion, the most interesting and the most fun. In some ways, it's the part of the rules that may be the most confusing and that I perhaps didn't explain as clearly as I could because I was a bit too enthusiastic about it. But it is definitely the most interesting way to play. And I call that adventures.
Adventures, yes.
And adventures are very informed by my own military background because I was quite frustrated with missions that I saw in a lot of miniatures games, some exceptions, but many miniatures games, particularly ones with a more sort of competitive bent, didn't seem to bear any resemblance to my experience of what an actual battlefield mission looked like and felt like. So I wanted to create something that wasn't exactly that, because that can get quite dull, but at least captured some of the flavour of it. So when you're playing an adventure, and there are a selection of ways you can do this, and the order in which you do this will change how you plan your battle. But you have your army, you have your situation, and you have your mission. And your army, obviously, you design yourself, but your situation and your mission are randomly generated. And the point at which you design your army, and the point at which you design either your situation or your mission, can radically affect how the game plays out. So if you design your army first, and then generate your situation, and then generate your mission, you may find that you have a very badly designed army for your mission. And you've just got to lump it. Or you can design your mission first, then design your army and tailor it to your mission, but then design the situation, or generate the situation. And the situation can really screw up your plans for your mission as well. And that's the order I like to do it best, is mission, then design your army, and then generate the situation. Because my favourite thing when I see people's faces when I tell them this, you can design your army and then before the game starts, take casualties and damage.
Right.
So you don't even get to the table with all the miniatures you pulled out of your box. And the ones that do get to the table have already taken damage.
No, not quite as bad as Traveller Away you can die in charging, but...
I don't think there's any situation where your entire force can be destroyed. But you can certainly find yourself severely hampered.
Oh, cool. So it's like effectively you're generating a mission, but that mission in itself does not happen in a vacuum.
Precisely so. And the situation is I love the situation chart. It's wonderful. Because it goes everything from this is just an ordinary day, we're just patrolling, we're not expecting anything going on, to we are in the middle of full combat operations, to actually everything's gone wrong and we're in full retreat. And you can have, each player has a separate situation. So you can have one side is in full retreat and the other side doesn't even know that there's a war going on. And that sets up some fun narrative ideas of exactly what is happening.
Okay, so yeah, we've got our forces, we've designed our army, we know what the situation is, we've decided how we're playing. One of the things, just before we get into how to play the game, because one thing I noticed which was quite interesting, you've got like table setup, and you've got categories of terrain. Can you explain what that is and where that came from?
It's not part of the idea of Mecha War when I first wrote it was I have two children, two boys, who are both, I describe them as game curious. My older son is a big Yu-Gi-Oh fan, and my younger son really likes some board games. He loves Catan, and he quite likes Carcassonne and Splendor and a few others. Neither of them has really made the leap into miniatures games, partly because they get very invested in winning. But I did want to write a game that was going to be very friendly for parents playing with children, or for small children who, I say small children, for people who are taking their first steps as miniatures gamers. So I wanted to make sure that terrain was going to be something that was very accessible and clear. So Category 1 terrain is the simplest level of terrain. It's a box. This is your upturned yogurt pot, your empty margarine container, your old shoebox, whatever it might be. It's just your basic obstacle on the battlefield. Doesn't do anything, can't go inside it, can't jump on top of it, it's just inconvenient.
Okay.
Category 2 terrain is slightly more elaborate. So that's when you get hills, woods, rivers, ruins, that kind of stuff. So Category 2 terrain is terrain that has been built to be terrain, but it's simple stuff. It has some simple additional rules associated with it. You can take it or leave it. Category 3 terrain then is for the advanced hobbyist or the off-the-shelf product. It's when you've got an item of terrain that is really going to be significant in the battlefield. So this is where you get the ability to occupy buildings. You have infantry fighting over buildings to contain it. There are various other options. So there are, for example, there are rules for protected sites. This is something that came out of me. I was in the medical corps in the army, and I was a specialist in the law of armed conflict. So the idea of protected sites was something that I was quite keen to get in. And there are different rules depending on whether a site is considered protected by only one side or whether it's considered protected by both sides. So you can have the situation where you're having a war in, well, we've recently seen the news about the recovery of Palmyra in Syria. You know, let's say your battlefield is right next to a site of international historical significance. How inconvenient is that going to be? So you've still got to kill the enemy, but you've got to be careful not to knock down the ruins doing so. Or you could have something a little bit more controversial, like one side has a temple. I mean, again, I served in Bosnia. This was a common thing where you had Christian and Muslim fighting against each other in the civil war in the former Yugoslavia, that one side would consider that church or that mosque to be deeply historically and spiritually significant, and the other side just want to destroy it. They're not interested, or they don't care. And that introduces a new dynamic to the tabletop. So that's interesting.
All of Palmyra, for example.
Exactly, precisely. Whereas, and going back to Cat 3 terrain, another form of Cat 3 terrain that I had a bit of fun with is the technological artifact. And I'm not a big fan of tables that you have to use during a battle. I don't mind tables that you use before or after a battle, but during a battle I tend to steer away from. But I couldn't come up with any other way to do this one other than a table. But this is a technological artifact that does a random thing. And you move into it and find out what it does.
Okay.
And there's a 12 option table for the things that it can do. And it could just destroy you instantly. It could destroy a random element. It could teleport you to a random place on the battlefield. My favorite result is, I think it's called It's Full of Stars, which is where basically somebody has discovered something that is going to completely transform human society. And every other objective in the game ceases, and the objective becomes to control this building. And that's it. So that's Cat 3 terrain. Cat 3 terrain gets complicated and interesting.
Just to go back to that, Zach, can I just check? Because you say you got the 3 categories of terrain. Do you sort of say before you start playing, we're playing on a category 1 table?
Well, you should.
Or
you
do you
should.
max-
You should agree. Well, you can have a mix. You can have
Yeah.
Cat 1, Cat 2, and Cat 3. Because, if you've just got a concrete box, it's just a concrete box. There's not much more you can do with it. If you've got a river, it's a river. Generally speaking, I'd say limit yourself to 1 item of category 3 terrain per battlefield. I don't think I've ever had to do a playtest when I've had to say, right, let us agree in advance what all of these things on the table are. It's just, that thing there is a building. You can go into it. That thing there is a wood. That thing there is a river. There are rules in the rulebook if you want to look them up. But that's it. But you can have swamps and ice flows and lava and stuff like that as well.
Okay.
It's, sci-fi.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, right, so we have everything we need to play. We have our armies. We've defined our armies, and we now have a table, and everything is agreed. How do we play the game?
Finally. Okay, I'll be technical somewhat. So it's an alternating activation game. So one side activates an element, and then the other side activates an element. Each element has 2 action tokens, and these are these pennies or counters or whatever you're going to use. So each element gets, and I'm going to say up to 2. In the basic form of the game, everybody gets 2. If you play an adventure, it gets a little bit more complicated, and you may have too many counters, in which case you start taking damage, or you may have too few and not everybody gets 2, and some people may get none at all. But basically, basic game, 2 counters. Each counter represents 1 action you can perform. That action can be move, shoot, move and shoot, which just affects how much you can move and how much you can shoot, charge, recover, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's basically it.
No, there's one more. There's one more.
What have I forgotten?
There's one more.
Oh, yes.
Do nothing.
Yes. There is...
which I must admit, when I saw it, was made me smile. It was kind of... and you can actually just choose not to do anything.
That was one of those examples of a rule that was added after I had submitted my final manuscript. I added that subsequently because I did some playtesting when I realised that it was actually necessary sometimes, very rarely, but very occasionally, you actively want to spend an action token and do nothing at all with it. And it doesn't happen often, but it does happen sometimes. Anyway, so yes, there is do nothing as well. So those are your action options. So you spend 1 action token, you perform 1 action. Your opponent then has an opportunity to react. So any of their elements that had the active element in their line of sight can now perform a reaction. And your choices of reaction are much more limited. Move, shoot, move and shoot, or countercharge in the event that you've been charged. That's all you can do in reaction.
Okay.
Once you have acted, you remove a counter. You have 1 left. Once you have reacted, again, you remove a counter. You flip the other one face down. So either it be tails up or black side up, whatever it's going to be. Because you can only react once in a turn.
Ah, okay, right.
Play then returns to the active element that performs its second action. And you can never react to a second action. So you either react for the first time or you've lost your chance. Play then goes over to the next person. And then the other person can activate an element. And the same thing happens. Now, if you've got an element that's already reacted, it can still be activated because it's still got 1 counter left. But it's only got 1 counter left, so it can only perform 1 action, having already performed a reaction earlier in the turn.
Now, does that count as a first action?
Yes.
From a
it can be
reaction point. Okay,
yes.
quite.
That's a good question.
Right, okay.
Never been asked that question before. Yes, it does.
I was about to ask, why can't you react to a second action? What's the sort of thinking behind that?
Well, first of all, bear in mind this alternating activation. So if I've just performed my second action, it's your turn now. So you don't need to react because it's your turn. Because you're about to do something anyway.
Yeah, but okay, I get that.
So that's the first grounding of it. It helps keep turns very simple. So when I finish my second action, You don't get a reaction and then we get confused and I perform another action. No. There's no, I've finished my second action. It's now your turn. So it's part of just organising the turn in a logical and sensible way. But it also opens up tactical options for you. So that if you know you're going to have a second action and there isn't going to be an opportunity for them to react again, you can draw their fire, for example.
Okay.
And now, as far as reaction is concerned, is it limited the number of units that can react?
Any unit that has line of sight can react. And not only that, this is something that occasionally blows people's minds, you don't have to react to the element that caused the reaction. So I could move my element A in your line of sight, you react with your element 1, and he shoots my element B.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
That was part of keep it simple, stupid. It just makes rules simpler. But also it means you have to think about leaving your elements exposed to reactions from your own actions. So you have to think about where you're positioning stuff.
Right. That wasn't clear when I read the rules. You almost kind of make an assumption that you're reacting to the element that's just
You can assume
activated.
that, but it doesn't say that in the rules. It just says that you can perform any of those actions.
Graduate of the Rich Clark School of Rule Writing. Read the rules. What the rules say is what matters.
Yes.
Yes. It says you can do one of these things. It doesn't say you could do one of these things, and this has to be the target.
Precisely. So movement, again is simple. You have a movement stat. Let's say you've got a movement of 4. You can perform 3 sorts of movement. Cautious, which is performed quite rarely. Cautious is up to your movement stat in inches. And if you perform a cautious move, you become what's called alert, which means you have an arc of vision of 360 degrees, whereas normally it's only 180 degrees. Right. If you perform a patrol move, you can move up to double your movement stat, and you can either combine that with shooting in a move and shoot action, or you can shoot later in the turn with your second action or as a reaction or whatever you're going to do. Or you can rapid move. You can rapid move up to 3 times your movement stat. So if you've got movement 4, up to 12 inches. But if you rapid move, you can't shoot in the same turn. So if you've already shot in a reaction earlier in the turn, for example, you can't subsequently rapid move.
Okay.
So very straightforward. Then shooting, again, it tends to blow people's minds a little, because I've kept it very simple. Shooting, you have a firepower stat.
Yes.
Let's, again, for the sake of argument, say you've got firepower 4.
Mm-hmm.
That means you're going to roll 4 d12s to shoot your target.
Okay.
Let's say the target is 12 inches away. So you have to roll a target number which is equal to the range plus the target's armor plus cover. Now, we'll come back to cover in a second because this is important.
Okay.
But let's say the target is in the open and he's got armor 2. And the range is 12 inches, so you're looking for 14. Now, obviously, you can't roll a 14 on a d12. You'll notice that.
Okay, so just a design question here.
Yeah.
Why add the armor to the range?
Well, and it says this in the book, armor is both armor or agility. Basically, it really represents how difficult is this thing to hit in a damaging fashion.
So how difficult it is to damage rather than how difficult it is to hit?
Or yes. Now, if I was writing a 28mm skirmish game, it would be very important to distinguish between those two things.
Okay.
But writing a 6mm more tactical battle game, it's not that actually important. If something is hard to hit or hard to damage, to be honest, it's pretty much the same thing.
Do weapons have ranges?
No.
Okay.
You just have firepower.
Now
there are upgrades that introduce something like the concept of range, but it's not range. So you're rolling 4 dice to hit a target 14 inches away.
Okay.
You then look at the results on your dice and group them into groups making at least 14. So let's say I've rolled a 6, an 8, a 12, and a 2. I've got 2 groups, each totaling 14.
Okay.
So I've got 2 hits. More significantly, the group containing a 12 is a critical hit, which we'll come back to in a second.
Okay. So basically, as long as it's at least 14,
Yep.
nothing happens with anything that's over?
Nope. At least 14. And
Okay.
let's say I'd rolled 5 dice, and my 5th dice was a 3, but it's wasted. It's lost. Adding
Fine.
it to one of the other groups isn't going to change it. It's still 14.
Okay.
Your opponent then rolls their defense dice. Now, defense dice is however much your defense stat is. Let's say the opponent has a defense of 3, for the sake of argument. He rolls 3 dice,
Okay.
and he is seeking to exactly match any of your results. So he wants to roll a 12, or a 2, or a 6, or an 8. And if he rolls one of those, it cancels out your one. So let's say he's rolled an 8, a 3, and a 9. The 3 and the 9 don't do anything, but the 8 cancels my 8. So all of a sudden, I'm left with a 12, a 2, and a 6. Well, I can only make one group of at least 14 out of those 3 dice. So I've only got 1 hit.
Okay. So, here's a pedantic question for you.
No, go.
What's the difference between defense and armor?
Yeah, no, that is... The nature of the game is quite abstract. So, defense is... If you wanted to think of it in narrative terms, it may be ablative armor that blows off, cancelling the effects of a hit.
Mm-hmm.
It may be smart nanofoam that smooths out over a hit. It may be a morale aspect, that people are hit and shaken, but they're not actually degraded. Because, we'll come to that, hits degrade capability.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say a hit, if I hit a tank square on, let's take a Challenger 2. I managed to hit a Challenger 2 with my RPG-7. Do you know what? They won't care. Because an RPG-7 is not going to bother a Challenger 2 tank. Well, it is. It's not going to damage that tank per se, but do you know what? Being inside a tank that's been hit with a rocket-propelled grenade is extremely disorientating. It's a bloody loud bang. So even though the tank itself is not damaged, I'm happy to say not directly.
Good.
Like I say, I was medical corps. I never hung around in Challenger 2s.
But obviously you had to deal with people who had.
Yes, quite so.
Yeah.
And it was usually just eardrum damage. But they're still going to be shaken by that. So it will degrade their capability. They may become more cautious. They may become more alert. That means they don't move as quickly. So when you've taken damage, it doesn't mean your element is destroyed. It means it's degrading your capability. So a normal point of damage, you look at your active stats, which are movement, firepower, and armor, not defense.
Okay.
And you have to drop one of your active stats by the number of hits you've taken. And you get to pick which one. Unless it's a critical hit, as this one was in our example, in which case your opponent gets to pick which one is degraded. You also tot up your total amount of damage. So you've taken 1 point of damage. So let's say I've dropped look at my 3 stats. If my movement drops to 0, I can't move. If my firepower drops to 0, I can't shoot. If my armor drops to 0, I am dead. The element is destroyed. So frequently, if you score a critical hit, you tend to take it off the armor. Always, because there are rules in the game that mean that sometimes you might want to take it off something else. But frequently take it off the armor.
Okay, so within that mechanism, you automatically get the issues of degrading unit, whereas in other games you might turn around and say, okay, well, I've hit it, what's the effect? And then you roll on a further table to say, I've immobilized you, or I've damaged this weapon system. That's kind of inherent in the way that damage works.
Precisely.
Oh, okay, cool.
Precisely. And you can also, of course, spend an action performing a recover. And a recover action, you take your defense dice again, you roll your defense dice, and for each of your defense dice that shows a value over the total amount of damage you have taken so far in the game, you can restore 1 point of 1 stat.
Right.
So the more damage you take, the easier it is to recover it.
No. You have to roll over the total amount of damage you've taken.
Oh, over, right.
So the more you
Sorry,
take,
got that one
the
way around.
harder it becomes to recover.
Yes,
Yeah,
right,
precisely so.
Also, going back to defense dice,
Yes.
one of the features of that mechanism, he says, having quickly done the maths, as I quite often do, the more incoming dice you have, the more likely you are to be able to knock one out with a single defense dice.
Yes.
Is that intentional?
It's not it's intentional in the fact that I know it's the case.
Yes.
And also, if you really crunch the maths, you'll notice that there's actually a geometric improvement in the value of defense dice once you add to defense. Yeah. So, 2 defense dice is twice as good as 1, but 3 defense dice is twice as good as 2, and 4 defense dice is twice as good as 3.
Right. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Fun.
And yeah, you do notice. So yes, if somebody is throwing 7 firepower dice at you, which frequently does happen, and you're rolling 4 defense dice back,
I've got to say that's like
you're definitely going to match them.
That's like heavy artillery, isn't it? 7 defense dice, if I remember rightly.
Well, yes and no, because this is something else that you'll notice, that there are no impact templates in this game. You can only hit one thing at a time.
Right. Okay.
So 7 firepower dice is either a really big gun or quite a small but very, very accurate gun.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
Because in that case, it can reach far enough and hit something important enough that it causes the effect of multiple hits. So it isn't necessarily being hit by dozens of hits. It's being hit by one thing that degrades you across multiple abilities.
But also, inherently in that, it's got a greater range.
Yes, precisely. So range, accuracy, and damage are all built into one roll.
So why did you decide to do away with area effect weapons?
It wasn't a conscious decision. Well, I wouldn't say it wasn't a conscious decision. I realised I had done it and decided whether I wanted to change that, and decided I didn't directly. I did away with it from their simplicity sense. It was one less piece of paraphernalia that people would need, because I looked at multiple ways of how I could reasonably and realistically reflect these big area effects, and actually I decided that none of them were satisfying on what I know of battlefield physics. Give you a good example. If you throw a hand grenade, it's very hard to predict exactly what the effect radius of a hand grenade is going to be. It depends a lot on the precise point on which it lands. How hard is the earth? Is it on concrete? Is it in a dip? Has it rolled into a puddle? All of those things will massively increase the actual effective range of that grenade. And it's the same with artillery shells. It's the same with any true area effect weapon, that it's very hard to predict its actual effect. Plus, when you're dealing with a 6mm or smaller scale game, actually, unless you're dealing with super weapons, very few things have an effect so massive that they're going to automatically knock on over the kind of ranges that we're talking about on 6mm games. Now, in science fiction, obviously, there's always room for your vortex grenade or whatever it might be. And if people want to explore that, that's fine. I've just finished writing the rules for my first expansion for the game, which is super heavy vehicles, super heavy mechs, super heavy tanks and other vehicles, and super heavy aircraft. And there have been introduced rules there that could be used to represent a bombing run, so you could hit multiple targets in a single attack.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of trying
They're
to...
not in the core rules.
Yeah, I was trying to sort of come between the difference between a sort of direct attack weapon, which, as you say, throws a single shell at the target, and more of a suppression type.
Although also,
area
I would...
effect.
Yeah, there is the option for 2, because you can perform a move and shoot action can also be a shoot and move action. So you can do a move and shoot and then a shoot and move at a different target. So you could move out of cover with a move and shoot at a target, and then shoot at another target and move back into cover. So you get effectively 2 shots at once on separate targets. And you can always split your fire between 2 actions.
Okay. It's some interesting sort of design concepts you've got in there, which are going against the, shall we say, the norm that you see in sort of large battle games, or even company level games.
Yeah. And I've been very pleased with how they seem to work.
For me, when we're looking at a game which is sort of company plus, I find it strange that you don't have an area effect, because if you're playing a bigger game, a sort of battalion level game where you got, the battlefield is many, many Ks across, then I can see the reason for not having an area effect. But when you are getting down to company level, you sort of think, they're maybe, even if it's only like an inch or the size of a base.
Well, think of this. If you've got, let's say, you've got an area effect weapon, and you want to use your area effect weapon to wipe out a whole squad. And a typical infantry squad on a battlefield does not concentrate in a space the size of a base. It concentrates on a large area, particularly with modern communications. It's going to be spread out over 100 meters or more on the real battlefield. You need a weapon to destroy it.
I was going to say, for precisely the reasons we're talking about, because of area effect weapons, to try and limit their effectiveness as much as possible. Yeah?
Exactly. In Horizon Wars, light infantry, the kind of people who are most vulnerable to this kind of attack, can still be wiped out by a single hit. If you roll a crit, they've only got 1 armor. So that's your area effect weapon. A crit hit has wiped it out. And it's just abstracted the idea of different types of weaponry, and the idea that a single individual element may not have, in fact won't have, never has, just 1 gun. Individual elements, be they vehicles or infantry squads, have a range of different weapons to call upon. And the abstracted firepower system means that you can represent all of them in 1 dice.
Yeah, I suppose it's that, but it's also a case of sort of deviation. If a weapon doesn't arrive on target, it's going to arrive somewhere.
Yes, no, that's fair. There isn't any mechanic in the game for hitting the wrong target. I'll grant you that. No, you either hit it or you don't.
Yeah.
But to be honest, that's not going to cause me to lose any sleep.
No, it's fine. It's a question I wanted to to ask, because
it's similar to the fact that there are no rules in the game for morale,
which is something we were coming to, because that is quite an interesting decision. Yeah, we'll come back to that in a minute, shall we?
Yeah.
But since we're talking about area effect weapons, and we've obviously talked a lot about direct fire. Is there such a thing as indirect fire?
Oh yes, I love indirect fire. You can in Horizon Wars, you can shoot with units that aren't even on the tabletop yet. So if you've got artillery elements that are in reserve, they have the indirect fire. In fact, you can upgrade mechs to have indirect fire as well, which is fun. But let's say you've got an artillery unit. It's held in reserve. It's not yet on the tabletop. And you've got an element on the tabletop that has the guide fire ability. Now, a number of different types of element have guide fire. Special forces have it, recon has it, and your command headquarters has it. And your CHQ is a decision you make in your army building.
Okay.
The CHQ can shoot at a target using its guide fire ability, using the range from itself and the firepower of an indirect element.
So you're sort of lightening up the target for your artillery, and
that's the principle. I think it's firepower -1, if I remember rightly. So let's say you've got a firepower 8 artillery element off the table. Well, your light infantry, special forces, let's say, that are up front, can creep up and drop artillery fire on an element from only 5 inches away. 5 inches with firepower 8 is going to really hurt.
Yeah, that's a lot of hits, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's quite nice. I mean, I do like indirect fire and bringing in fire.
I should hasten to add, you can also indirect fire with elements that are on the tabletop if they can't see, so they can hide behind a building and still indirect fire. I just like the fact that they can shoot from reserve as well.
And would that count as one of their activations?
Yes, it's an action for both elements in that
Okay.
case. The shooting and the indirect firing element have to spend an action to do it, but they spend it simultaneously.
Okay, so this is where you actually have a situation where you can hold units in reserve.
Yes.
So they can't be hit themselves on the battlefield, but they will still have a use.
Precisely.
Right. And actually, when it comes down to things like artillery and indirect fire, actually, I mean, we constantly seem to have this argument, depending on what game system you're playing, that, why on earth is that artillery piece on the table when actually it would actually be 5 miles away?
Shouldn't be anything like that close. That's right. Yeah. So you can actually design your army that way. So you can say, no, I'm going to keep that artillery piece in reserve. I don't even need a miniature for it.
Can you do counter battery fire?
I haven't got any rules for it, I confess. I did have a look at, because when aircraft are in the game, they can disengage from the battlefield and return from reserve. And I did look at the options for sending aircraft to attack reserve elements. I never finished the rules, and I decided they were just getting a little bit involved for the core rule book, which I did want to keep on a very keep it simple principle. But it's certainly easy enough to do, and if people wanted to have a go at writing their own rules for counter battery fire or for sending aircraft to bomb reserve elements, that's entirely up to them.
Yeah.
So
I was just going to say that is a nice idea. I mean, maybe it's something you sort of do maybe as later on as another supplement.
Yeah.
But it's the taking your tabletop game and putting it more into the bigger picture. Or the bigger battle, because these things don't happen on their own. If you've got a small, a small engagement, there will be other assets brought in, and they will be, obviously attracting attention themselves. So it's how you manage that bigger picture as well.
I mean, at the end of the day, I did have to keep reminding myself, this is a game. It's supposed to be fun. It's not a hardcore military simulation. I've played hardcore military simulations, and they're really dull. So this is still supposed to be a bit of fun, and the fun and the action all happens on the tabletop.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of room to add more depth. I mean, one of the things which you might like, although I've just finished the Super Heavies article, I am 95% of the way through an article on electronic warfare.
all right.
That brings in combat hacking, drones, robots, artificial intelligence, and other sort of electronic warfare and communications devices to enhance the battlefield activity. I particularly like artificial intelligences because this is the idea that you have a self-aware battlefield data net that can actually, when there's a key element that is itself electronic, so a drone or a robot element, the artificial intelligence can inhabit that element. It becomes a host for the AI, and it becomes super effective because it's being personally driven by the artificial intelligence. But it can only jump from one to the other once a turn, and if you can hack it, you can really mess its day up.
So again, you're basically playing around with how other effects from outside the battlefield affect the game itself.
Trying to think about the bigger battle. Yeah.
So,
but it's an optional extra. That's just why it's being kept out for a supplement. It's for people to play with and enjoy, who want to go beyond the core rules. I hope people will find plenty to explore and enjoy in the core rules alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots more to do. Oh, while I remember, it's just on my mind. We went back, and I'm just going to mention this now because it's going to bug me if I don't. In the shooting, you do the range plus the armor plus cover.
Yes.
I managed to forget to include the cover rules in the rulebook.
I did notice.
It was very embarrassing when I realised they're not in there.
Because
they're really quite simple, but they're on my blog for the moment, and as soon as I've got enough frequently asked questions to issue a frequently asked questions document, it will be included as an errata explaining what the rules for cover are.
But
if anybody wants to know them now, it's on my blog.
Can I apologise on behalf of wargaming proofreaders everywhere?
It was so frustrating because it was one of those rules that was just so natural to me. It was just so. It had always been from pretty much the first scrap of paper. These rules were part of the game. That when they didn't transfer across into the Horizon Wars manuscript, I just never noticed. It was so embarrassing.
But it was quite interesting because when I went through, and I was going backwards and forwards, going, okay, so we've talked about cover, but cover's not defined anywhere, and you've got this thing of like, these terrain pieces, like forests, ruins, they class as cover, and the only other thing that classes as cover is buildings.
Yes.
And then the other thing that mentions cover is the ability to dig in. And I must admit, it kind of had this suddenly had this logical progression when I suddenly thought, oh, hang on a second, only infantry can dig in. So given the area
it sounds like only infantry ever get cover. I know. Yeah, it's not true.
Oh, right. Yeah, but that kind of, to me, to a certain extent, that kind of made sense in the fact of, in the future, with the weapon systems that we are dealing with, basically, if it's big enough, it can't hide.
That's very nice of you, but it was a mistake.
Okay.
Infantry are, however, if you can get an infantry element into a building and dug in, it's very hard to shift. Because all of a sudden, because cover, I'll explain briefly how cover ought to work. First of all, you have to be in contact with the cover, or it doesn't count.
Right.
If you are partially obscured, so less than half of the element is obscured from the shooting element, you get +1 to the effective range. So add +1 to the range.
Okay.
If you are more than half obscured, you add +3. If you're in a building, obviously you count as more than half obscured, so you get +3. If you dig in, you get another +3. So you're always adding 6 to your range to hit infantry in a building. So infantry in a building are hard to shoot out. Easiest way to get infantry in a building out is to send more infantry in after them. And then you get a nice little combat. And we haven't touched on the combat rules. They're quite fun as well.
No. That's kind of next after shooting. Actually, logically, it is interesting the amount of games that are now in that situation where they're turning around saying, okay, if you have a situation where you've got something occupying a building, short of bringing the building down on top of them,
which you can do.
The only other, which obviously, if the building happens to be the objective, you don't necessarily want to do. Yeah, the only way is to physically go in there and dig them out.
Yeah, that's what infantry are for at the end of the day.
Yeah, cool. Okay, we haven't talked about it, so let's talk about it. Charging.
Okay. I love combat. It's deadly, it's brutal, hardly anybody comes out of it unscathed.
A quick question. Why did you call it charging and not like close assault or something?
I went through lots of different permutations. Do I call it assault? Do I call it CQB? Do I call it this or that or that? And it basically settled down to what's the word? It was the semantics of how the rules were expressed. Meant saying anything other than charging felt really weird. And also you get the nice thing of charge and countercharge.
True.
So it was purely a semantic question, and I really did go all around. Originally it was called CQB, and eventually that just became too unwieldy, so I ditched it and went to charging instead. Okay. But charging, yes, it's fun when you charge. Very rarely does an element's presence matter in the battle. But charging is one time when it does. When you charge an element, you each roll a number of dice equal to your presence. So a P3 element will roll 3, a P1 will roll 1, etc.
Right.
You then discard all the dice apart from the highest one. You then add to your dice a modifier based on how far you charged. So if you charged more than 4 inches, you add, I think, +2, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. If you charged 1 inch or less, Yeah, I think it's over 1 inch or 1 inch or less. I forget. I have to remember the rules. You add +1. So if you have the opportunity to countercharge, it's worth doing because you can always add +1 to your dice roll. You then compare those two dice. You halve the value of the dice rolling down and apply that to your enemy as damage.
Right.
So if you've, say, I think it's +4 actually, if you charge over an inch, you add +4. So if you manage to roll a 12, and if you've got 3 dice, it's not completely unheard of to roll a 12 on that, and you add 4, you're doing 8 damage to your opponent. And because it was a 12, you've got a critical as well. So one of them is crit. So everybody gets hurt. Now it becomes slightly more complicated depending on the nature of what's charging. That was how a vehicle versus vehicle or mech versus mech is resolved.
Right.
If a vehicle charges infantry and the infantry loses, then the mech still takes damage regardless, or the vehicle takes damage, but the infantry is destroyed.
Right, okay.
If infantry charges vehicle and the infantry wins, the vehicle is destroyed. Infantry still take damage. So in other words, you don't want to get charged by infantry if you're a vehicle. By far, the single best element for killing big, scary mechs is a special forces element. Because special forces are infantry, but they're presence 3. So when they charge a vehicle, they're rolling 3 dice.
Oh, so again, you start getting these elements of you do not want to get vehicles caught without infantry support.
Oh, yeah.
And got you. Okay. Precisely so. And if so, a vehicle can just squash an enemy infantry element. So if you get your P3 tank rolls up against a P1 infantry element, it has a pretty good chance that it's just going to kill them. But if it doesn't, this is the tricky thing. If the vehicle loses that first roll-off, no damage is applied. Instead, you immediately resolve the combat again as if the infantry had charged the vehicle. Oh, right. So, effectively, you get an automatic countercharge.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So it's risky for the vehicle, because if the vehicle doesn't win, there's a chance it might get blown up. And that's supposed to try and capture in a very abstract way the idea of, satchel charges up the exhaust pipe or grenades drop down a periscope and all those good war-y stories from our favourite combat comics.
Yeah. Okay. So, close quarters battle, yeah, deadly, basically.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes. I have once, in all my playtesting, I saw one close combat where it was a mech charging a mech, and one of the mechs managed to roll 3 1s on their charge roll, on their presence roll. And because they were the target and they hadn't done any charging, it meant that their opponent took no damage at all, because you halve and round down.
Yes.
But that's once in 3 years of playtesting I saw that happen. Generally speaking, combat is painful for everybody, and it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the rules for all ground-based forces. Now, rules for aircraft are slightly different, aren't they?
They are. They are more complex, because you've got to deal with the fact that, by and large, they are always moving.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, they have a different way of moving. So aircraft basically have 3 ways of moving. They can go straight on, they can bank, or they can veer. And, of course, they also have the option, which is a type of veer, which is a hard veer. And banking and veering basically means different amounts of movement. So they can move 45 degrees just the once, 45 degrees twice in their move, or on a hard veer, 90 degrees twice in their move, and change altitude. So they fly up and they fly down.
Okay.
If they fly up as high as altitude 6, they disengage. If they fly off the table, they disengage. They go into reserve and they have to come back the next turn. Otherwise, they are assumed to return to base and do nothing else. But they're also different in their shooting. Because they're always moving, they don't have this restriction of other elements that means you can't move and get your full firepower. You have to stand still for full firepower normally. But for an aircraft, they can always shoot with their full firepower. But aircraft, of course, carry a limited amount of firepower. And once they've shot something, it's gone by and large. So they can perform two types of shooting attack. They can either perform an engage, which is normally half your firepower, or they can perform a strike, which is their full firepower, but after they do it, they immediately reduce their firepower by 1.
Okay.
So each time you perform a strike, you become less effective because you've fired off another Hellfire missile or whatever it is. Now, aircraft are great at swooping in at high speed and low altitude right into the face, so the range to its target is very short, and then unleashing a strike in the attempt of critting a target to death, which gets that low altitude strike on a vulnerable enemy target feel. But you can also upgrade them to become rotary or anti-grav elements that become more maneuverable, and they can hover, they can land, they can even throw air deployable elements out of the back of them if they want to.
Can they attack other aircraft?
Yes.
They can.
Yes. Oh, yes. Dogfighting is very viable. Yeah. And in fact, by far the best weapon to use against a big, nasty aircraft is a small, nasty aircraft.
Can they transport as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they can. They either have light or heavy transport varieties. Now, it has to be said that once you start using heavy transports, it starts eating away at your build points very quickly. So it's very hard to have a really tooled up heavy transport unless you go for the super heavy rules. But yes, you can transport Presence 3 elements right into the heart of the battlefield if you want to. Tricky with Presence 3 because they will have to land in order to drop them off. But you can also equip Presence 1, definitely Presence 1, I don't think Presence 2, Presence 1 with a drop harness. So you can stick 3 Presence 1 mechs on a heavy transport vessel, heavy transport aircraft, fly it into the enemy ranks and throw 3 light mechs off the back of it.
That's
and
good.
they can land.
Are you going to include rules for sort of airdrops?
Well, there are airborne infantry is an element, and light artillery are also capable of aerial deployment.
There's something in the rules called deep deployment, isn't there?
That's it. Yeah, and I've called it deep deployment because it could be lots of things. Again, it's abstract, but the broad principle is yes, it's aerial deployment, Halo, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the sort of thing you want is troops arriving in the enemy's rear.
Yes,
when they're not expected.
Precisely.
Yeah, it's because one of the things we haven't really talked about is all these elements. Well, we kind of vaguely touched on it and vaguely mentioned it, but of course, when you're doing your army building, depending on the type of element, there are all these different abilities and upgrades available, aren't there?
Yes.
Which basically means that you can customize your force into whatever you want with generally whatever abilities whatever abilities ish.
Well, it's actually if you want to go for abilities and upgrades, you have to have the command resources to do so.
Right.
And yes, you can do that for anybody, but there are more efficient builds depending on what you want to achieve.
Okay.
And this is led by the fact that if you choose a conventional command headquarters, it comes free. So you can get, if you take a heavy cavalry headquarters, you get free heavy cavalry element, but it then makes some other elements more expensive.
Right.
Right. I mean, we've covered the rules in quite a bit of depth. I mean, there's probably a lot more stuff that we haven't touched on. But is it worth? We've chatted about sort of army creation and stuff, but you have got a setting in the book. Is it worth sort of talking about that setting, and have you done any sort of standard army lists for that setting with sort of suggested models?
The setting briefly, there are 4 settings in the book, and they're all set along a timeline, measuring from the relatively near future to the very distant future. The setting section of the book includes some suggestions for battles in those settings and some restrictions on what you can and cannot include in each setting. But I haven't done any sort of specific, this is a sample army from this setting. That is, however, definitely on my list of things to do, depending on how enthusiastic people are about the setting. I'm aware that, you can put a setting in a book, nobody has to use it, they can play in their own darn setting. But if people are enthusiastic about the setting and want more and want to know more about the background and the history of the new colonial war or the darkness or whatever, then let me know, because I've got articles prepped, drafted, sketched out on the back of a fag packet that I would be delighted to fill out in more detail.
I think things like that are quite good, because there seems to be two camps of sort of sci-fi war gamers. Those who probably like myself, who like to tweak with figures that we've got already and try and get them into a new set of rules and see how they play. And then, of course, you've got the other ones who basically said, "Oh well, give me an army, or give me an army list that I can then use." And of course, you're trying to be fairly agnostic and not sort of say these are the figures and these are the stats for those figures, because that's not the business that you're in.
Precisely. But
it's always good to have something there for people to sort of look at and maybe get inspired from. We had a very similar conversation with Carl Brown about this, didn't we? About
we did, yeah. I mean, I must admit there are the two sides of this. Obviously, from an Horizon Wars point of view, basically what you have is a set of rules, and there is a section at the back of the book where you turn around and say, okay, these are the rules, and this is an example of all the figure companies who produce stuff that you can use for these rules. And then, so it's just like, look at what you can do.
And I'm just scraping the surface, really.
Yeah.
I didn't even touch, which I will in an article for, I hope, another magazine later. I didn't even touch upon the idea of companies that produce miniatures that work perfectly in small scales but aren't designed for it. So, for example, I mean, they appear in the book. The GZG 15mm crab walkers are great little mechs. I've got a set of Gates of Antares drones, which make wonderful flyers or recon elements. And there are all sorts of miniatures from a variety of ranges and scales that fit beautifully in small-scale wargaming. Yeah, it's that little bit of just like moving and kind of going, okay, just think outside the box. Just that little bit, and kind of go, hang on a second, in 28mm, that's this size. Well, hang on a second, thinking 6mm, it's suddenly becomes something completely different. Yeah, I mean, and again, I suppose this is the thing, is that, and something what Mike was hinting at, is the fact that, especially when it comes to sci-fi, so many people are used to being sold a system. This is a set of rules, this is the miniatures range that you use them with, these are the army lists. And of course, Horizon Wars isn't that, is it? No, absolutely not. It's a starting point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the ingredients. The recipe is entirely up to you.
And again, it's something that you could almost put onto a forum and say, post your army list here for your figure collection.
Oh yeah. And even, I mean, this is something because people keep saying, oh well, I've posted a picture of some of my miniatures. Oh, what does the army list look like for that? I said, well, it could like lots of things depending on which one of those I decide is the CHQ. That could be a 9-point army, or that could be a 15-point army. The same thing. Just depends how efficient I want to make it. But I've just done a YouTube video, which unfortunately the video quality is terrible because I used my mobile phone to record it. But I've just done a YouTube video on exactly that topic. Okay, so I think it's a great point to turn around and say, right, so these rules are coming out at Salute. Yeah, they are. Their first pre-release event is Adepticon for your American listeners. Oh, they'll be available at Adepticon. Which will have missed it by the time you publish this. Well, because Adepticon is like this weekend. It is. Yes, that's a good point. Yes. Okay. First release is at Adepticon. Second release is at Salute on the 16th of April. Yeah. The US general release is on the 19th of April, and the UK general release is on the 21st of April.
Cool, I can get them when I come back from holiday. Yay.
Indeed. Okay, and you're going to be at Salute, aren't you? Yes, absolutely. Running demo games? I will be wandering around Salute. I hopefully will have my demo game in a bag with me. So if you can find me wandering around,
and guide me towards a quiet corner, I will be happy to run demo games.
Right, okay.
But I will be at the Osprey booth for an hour or two chatting and signing copies, but there isn't room, unfortunately, to run demo games there as well.
Right. Okay.
But if you'd like them to have me there running demo games at their events, tell them so, and then maybe they'll invite me.
Well, there's a very nice event coming up in September in Peterborough, which isn't too far away from Shotland.
You scrounge your lift up with Hobbsy.
Depending on your definition of not too far.
That is true. I can probably pick you up on
the way.
On the way.
Yes.
I'm sure we could, if you asked nicely, I'm sure we could find you a demo table.
Well, as I stand, I have a long list of events I would like to go to, but I have deliberately not booked myself to any of them until the game is out.
Right.
Because only once the game is actually out there and we definitely know that everything's arrived from China and it's all worked and it's out there and I know what kind of a reception it has had, I will then know how much of my time it is worth investing in going to lots of events. But I have a long list of events I would like to go to. And I look forward to contacting event organisers and saying, have you got any tables left? Like, come along. But also, it's very hard to run demo games and sell product at the same time. So what I'm hoping is it'll be amazingly received and I'll be able to find local people who will come out and help me sell product while I run demo games.
If only there was a large wargame centre within, say, a 35-mile radius of Cheltenham that you could go to.
But there isn't.
I know.
Hang on, I know of one. No, we'll definitely have to get you down to Firestorm for demos.
Yeah.
Because they'll sell it and you just sit there and show it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I've got plans. I'd like to visit retailers. I'd like to visit clubs as well. I'm quite invested with the Gaming Club Network. So I'm hoping to get around to quite a few of the GCN clubs
we can
over the next 12
on
months
Monday.
and run events. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be good.
We'll
So
squeeze you
lot
on
of travel.
Monday sometime.
Yeah.
Lots of travel and nights out, so we'll see.
Okay, so you've hinted, basically, by the 21st of April, it should be available everywhere
Yes.
to buy. So you've already kind of hinted that you're already working on expansions, future supplements, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the plan as far as getting those out there? Are they, is it going to be a case of they're going to be another print release, or are they just going to be available electronically, or how's that all going to work?
It's a little bit playing it by ear at the moment. The short answer is, at the moment, Osprey have no intention of publishing anything further on Horizon Wars.
Oh, okay.
It's a single release. They see it as a self-contained product. But to be fair, they said the same thing about Frostgrave. So we'll see. Assuming that things go as they plan, I will release material as long as there is a market for it. I have a list of 25 possible expansions. I have one completely finished.
I was going to say, just the one or two then.
Yeah, one written in full, but it needs transferring in and editing for format. And I've got two more that are well advanced in their writing and development. And then I have a further list of, as I say, 21 other things that I could add to it. So, for example, I've got the Super Heavies article is finished. Electronic Warfare article is ready for formatting. I've got official tournament rules, which need some thorough playtesting, but those are written if people want to play tournaments. I've got those written. And then I've got the rules well in development for the Maul expansion. And Maul appears in the setting. It's short for Mecha Ball, which is basically a form of football played with mechs. That's proper football, I hasten to add.
Oh. That's soccer to all our American listeners. Yes.
Sorry, alienated half of your leadership. Sorry. Yes.
I think you'll find it. This is a UK-based podcast.
Indeed.
Jolly good. Jolly good.
Just wait.
So yeah, we got the Maul article is well in hand, and then it is very much a case of saying, well, what's the enthusiasm? These things. My intent is to release most of these articles first in a beta format, because now I've got a decent community. About 150 people are in the Horizon Wars community on Facebook.
Okay.
So I'll probably be giving them beta access to part or all of these rules to give a thorough playtesting to. And then once I've got their feedback in, I will finish off and polish up the article with photography and artwork of my own, and then most likely release it digitally as a paid-for product, but I'll keep the price. It'll probably still be £1 War Games. It'll still be £1 a shot, I would think.
Yeah.
Certainly not much more than that. Either through Wargame Vault, which is a good outlet, or there's a possibility that somebody I'm talking to now about new web hosting will be in a position to offer me a site through which it can be sold, and he will handle all the VAT nonsense. So that might happen, but we're still waiting to see. If reception is amazing and the stuff sells over and over, then it's possible that in 12 months' time, either I will put together a compendium and sell it as a print product, perhaps on an Indiegogo or a GoFundMe, or who knows, perhaps Osprey might be persuaded that there's still life in the old dog yet, and might produce a new publication, but we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, I've got plans for campaign books and sort of historical settings and more detail for specific factions within those settings and all kinds of stuff.
Are you thinking of selling stuff yourself for sort of add-ons, things like counters and things like that? Because you mentioned...
I'm not a retail operation by any means, but I if anybody out there is interested in products suitable for Horizon Wars and would like to discuss any kind of licensing deal, they are welcome to get in touch. But I am not a retail person. The only thing I will sell is the rulebook, and I'll only do it face to face. I'm not going to get into mail order or anything nonsense. If you want to get in the post, get it from Osprey. I get most money if you buy it from Osprey.
Cool. Well, Robey, it sounds like. Well, I mean, I must admit, having gone through it and everything, I've been really impressed with them. It's, and again, it was one of these things of, because, especially with the fact that it's an open system, all of a sudden it means that I've got a 6mm army, which is just sat in storage doing nothing, which all of a sudden is like, hey, I can get this to the table. Yeah. And, I've been really impressed with them, mate. And so, I mean, the book itself is fantastically put together. It really is a very, very good product. And, I've been impressed with the rules, mate. So, and thank you for the work you put in on it. And, thank you for coming on the show and telling us about it. It's been, and hopefully it's enthused people, because obviously some people turn around and, will probably turn around and go, oh, crikey, not yet another 6mm sci-fi game. Because there have been the odd one or two around this year.
There has been a few, yeah.
But again, I mean, I'd say hopefully this will, for one thing, indicate that it's something a little bit different.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's one thing that appealed to me, because, so many game systems, when you look at them, they're effectively doing the same thing, and this is trying to do, as you say, in some ways, something a little more abstract, but at the same time, it's something a bit different. Yep. And I like that.
I hope so.
Yeah. So thank you very much for coming on the show and chatting to us about it, and just want to say, we wish you all the very best, and I hope it goes well, mate.
Thank you very much.
So, as I say, all being well, we'll catch up with you, salute, and then we'll go from there, mate. All right.
Brill. Thanks, Neil.
Okay.
Cheers, dude.
Take care, and we'll speak to you soon.
Ta-ra.
Cheers, then.
Look, you're still wrong about 6mm, Neil. Just let it go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You've been on about it all over the last 5 minutes. Just let it go.
But
lads, I'm going to step in between the two of you now. Break it up.
Here he was. I brought him on the show to help champion my cause for 6mm. The 6mm fan that is Dave Luff. Mr. Berry would be very disappointed in you, Mr. Luff.
Maybe he's trying to tell you something.
No, I'll just be disappointed in myself if I actually agreed with anything with Neil on air. Actually, that's the truth behind it.
Plus, Mr. Berry would actually get you to play Polymos.
Which is probably a far better system for playing than 6mm anyway.
Much better system for 6mm.
Although
You can hear the despair in his breath, can't you?
Yeah.
it has to. Although, as I say, so basically, what you're telling me is that sorry, Neil, you can't possibly play Sharp Practice with the figures that you currently own. You're going to have to go out and buy some new ones. Is that what you're telling me?
Honour the Wargamers Code.
Yes, you have to. You
have to do the right thing. The right thing says new rule set, new figures.
I'm thinking. The Welsh Wizard's got a point here. I think we need to go for French-Indian War
in 28mm.
I'm trying to figure out why the Welsh Wizard is doing that, given he's got a War of 1812 supplement to sell. But that's his problem.
You just suck him in gently. I'll just turn around in 6 months' time and go, you got all those Indians.
All those Indians, yeah.
He's got a point.
And actually, given some of the troop types, it's not a million miles away. Just to push it that little bit further. French Indian War.
Of course, the nice thing about doing War of 1812 is once you've done that, you've actually got some forces in very Napoleonic uniforms you can then use for, Napoleonics.
Yeah, you just ship them across the channel.
It's a win.
We're going to have a good long think about this now.
Yeah, start with the 28s you've got for French-Indian War, and the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
28mm.
There's only one slight problem, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I own both sides.
Oh, well, doesn't surprise me, does it?
Dave, simple solution.
I bought them for muskets and tomahawks, okay?
Simple solution.
Let him get on with
the French-Indian War, and once he's done that, you start picking up the War of 1812 stuff to use with it. Problem solved.
Sorted. Do the Americans though, Dave, because their uniforms are a lot easier to paint.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's nothing simple. There's never a simple option when Neil's involved.
Someone remind me, how big a force did you need for muskets and tomahawks? It wasn't that many figures, was it? It was only about 25 or 30 aside, wasn't it?
It was a saga-sized force, if memory serves.
Yeah, about 20 figures, 50 figures max.
So you're not that short of what you'd need for.
So Neil's probably got every variant and every possible you can have. So he's probably got 200 aside, easy.
He's not denying it. No,
he isn't.
No.
You've got a good starting force there for.
I can't remember. I can't remember what I've got now. And of course now, I'm just thinking, flipping out. I'm gonna have to go and find the boxes now.
Or you could just buy some new ones. Which
I was going to say, please.
After all, there's a big wargame show coming up.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah.
Which you'll be at.
Will we?
Because then what will happen is you'll get home and you'll immediately find the ones that you've hidden away. Whereas if you try to find them now, you'll waste a week. You may as well buy some new stuff, which means the magic will happen and you'll find your old figures. Because that's how it happens. So, time to wrap up then.
I think so.
Poor lad.
Well, after you've listened to this, probably probably in the next day or so, after you've listened to this show, you'll have the opportunity to come and give you some more abuse to my face at Salute.
Just direct him at the Perry's store. It's simple.
Or North Star. Yeah, go to North Star and get the French Indian Wars from there. I'm sure Nick will give you a discount.
Or Gripping Beast. Don't GB have some Tomahawk stuff? Muskets Tomahawk stuff.
They might have a little bit. They probably have the rules, that's about all.
Oh, well, either way, just point Neil at 28. You know it makes sense.
Yeah. Plus you need some trees. Get some more trees.
I've got 70.
But they're wrong scale, mate.
I bet are they tall enough?
These are big redwoods. You want about a foot and a half tall.
The 50-foot elm outside my house is nearly a foot tall in 28mm.
And some roads now. Some wider roads.
I'm not making roads again.
You can't make me do it, man. You can't make me do it.
I'm not doing roads again. Not 3 weeks of making roads and dry brushing roads. No. Mentally scarred for life.
You see, this is the other reason to do it in 15mm. Because the other discussion was A, scenery, and B, storage.
Yeah, I'm running out of storage.
But you got a whole room.
Gonna need a bigger house, Neil.
Two sides for an entire sharp practice force will fit in one 9-litre really useful box. I can produce you photographic evidence of that from Monday.
It is. It's storing the box that's the problem, though.
Under the table?
Got all Neil's stuff under the table.
Yeah.
Not my problem.
And I've filled his cupboard with scenery.
Oh, dear Lord. Moving swiftly on.
So
We could actually start a club, couldn't we, now, I think?
we could. Somebody would come to it, I'm sure. Maybe. Anyway.
Hell, if you weren't 50 miles away.
Well, we're not 50 miles away. Not from you. And on that
I'll tell
note,
you what, these Essex miniatures 15mm French Indian wars are lovely, mate.
no, I don't like Essex. I was looking at the Napoleonics, and I don't like Essex, which is why I was looking at AB, because AB are really pretty.
Yeah, but aren't all that AB stuff's all... I was looking at AB stuff. It's all a bit sort of samey for skirmish figures. They're not sort of action posed, are they? All sort of marching pose.
They do have quite a selection, but I mean, a lot of the Napoleonic stuff is march attack, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're playing a skirmish game.
Which is why you're going to play it in 6mm with massive ranks of figures, right?
Guys, it's been lovely. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Pram over, toys everywhere.
Yep.
We've broken him.
He's crying in a corner he is.
No, he's just gone online looking for new co-hosts.
It's not fair. It was all going so well.
Oh, someday it'll be my turn. Or Hobbs's, you wait.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, Neil. While they're having to go at you, they're leaving me alone.
That's because we're scared of you, mate. You're taller than most of us.
Most.
Well, taller than me. But then again, you're
Anybody's taller than you, Hobbsy.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
but factually correct.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
true.
nice with that.
Folks, thank you so much for listening.
Tune in for an argument next week.
Yes. When there'll be dead air because we won't be talking to each other anymore.
Is this the right room for an argument?
Yes.
Apparently
No.
so. So thank you for listening to 2 hours of an interesting interview and 2 hours of people bickering.
With a respectful nod to the passing of one of the greats of British comedy and one of our occasional sign-off lines. It's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. God bless.
Good night and happy 50th birthday, Mr. Hobbs.
4 candles?
Yeah, you need more than that for that birthday cake, mate.
Yeah.
Fire extinguisher.
Fire brigade.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media. And here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.